Okay, hello. Um, okay, I first came across your music, Jesse, through I don't know how. I've never watched Emma Chamberlain in my life. I presume a lot of people are coming to music through that video that she made where she featured two of your songs, was it? I think it was in one video. I swear to God, I watched two of her videos. I think it was Fate that brought me to your songs because I can't stop listening to your music now.
Yeah, sure, Finn. We'll just gloss over that. But so you were watching a bunch of Emma Chamberlain videos
I
for
watched
weeks at a
two.
time.
I watched two. I swear to God, I only watched two. Um,
It's okay. I had the pleasure of meeting Emma, and she was quite
did you
nice.
actually?
Very nice person,
Okay.
and clearly has good music taste.
Oh God, yeah. Well, for that video anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
No, she was using my music for quite a while, for
oh, was
about a year.
she?
About a year.
See,
Yep.
that
And
proves I only
using a
watched two
lot of
videos.
yeah, she used a lot of maybe 10 videos or maybe even
Oh,
more.
okay.
Yeah. It
And
was
how did you end up meeting her?
well, actually, that was it was a surprise to wake up one day and sort of find that my music was being used in that context
Hmm.
and that all these people were being turned on to it. So at one point I was out in Los Angeles just recording some music and I was out there for a little bit and I saw that she was think opening a hummus restaurant or doing something
Oh,
ridiculous
right.
in LA. Maybe like I think she had a signature hummus bowl that she was premiering at a place. And I happened to be in that area and I saw that she was there and I was like, "Oh, I'm going to stop by and say hi and just introduce myself."
Oh,
So
that's
I
pretty
did
cool.
that. It was quite funny because I was, 40-year-old gentleman. Everyone else there was like a 17-year-old girl. So it was pretty funny. Security was on high alert, but then it was nice. I went and introduced myself and she's very sweet.
Yeah, as much as I dislike the idea of YouTube algorithms, it did lead me to this. I don't know how it led me. I think it was when she was in New York or something, and I just clicked on it. And then I heard the one that's on your Spotify, the Snowbird Strut, is that's the one she had in that video, which
Yeah, that's the one she used.
yeah, yeah, that's so cool. I think it's such a cool song.
Thank you.
Um and the music video as well is outrageously good. I love it. It's so
Oh,
good.
thank you. Thank you.
Um how did you make that video? Like what how did you make the like
Well, I
four
must say the vision for that music video was my great friend from growing up. His name is Sean Aylward, and
okay.
he is the editor for a bunch of TV shows in Hollywood, and he's been living in Hollywood for a long time. And we grew up together, and he just had this idea to make this video. Um, actually, the funny little story about that video is it's actually for a different song.
Oh.
Um, I had made it maybe 2 years prior for a different song. So there's parts where you'll see these little gnomes singing, and
Hmm.
it actually goes to a different song. But when that Emma Chamberlain song started becoming so popular, we re-edited it for that because
Oh, okay.
the other one was kind of just a fun project, and this one I was like, oh wait, I could actually this almost fits better, and it did.
Yeah, yeah.
So we edited it for that one and just got out the door. But it was my friend Sean. He had the idea. Um, Actually, that whole video is filmed right in back here, which is
Oh,
my
cool.
back area here is a big meadow.
Yeah.
And that was all filmed out there and then in a green screen room. And yeah, just kind of ridiculous and just trying to react to yeah, getting a bunch of unexpected plays from people that were, I think it was 17 to 22 years old or something, like
Yeah,
packed. And
yeah.
I was like,
No, because like I didn't want to talk to you about music through that because like I think people are there's like a lot of meme stuff. Maybe people are like using that song in a kind of meme way, which is fine, but I
that's
don't.
okay.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
okay, but I'm not really that interested in. I'm kind of more interested in the music and like I don't want to reduce the music to a meme. Sometimes I get annoyed when that
Well, yeah,
happens.
if you
But
want to talk about anything in that production is like
yeah,
I tried to make it sound like an AM radio station. There's
okay,
an AM radio station here in Boston, and AM radio typically is more like low budget kind of talk radio. And there was this one radio station here that always would play old-timey strange songs that I had never heard.
hmm.
And so that Snowbird Strut was just kind of a reflection of hearing AM radio and old hits. And Snowbird I don't know if you know that term, but that's a term we have in America for old people. Once they retire, they go down to Florida for the winter. So they're
Oh,
called
yeah.
snowbirds. So
Okay.
really, if I had a budget and I had some money to like really come up with some visions, when I was making that song, I had personally envisioned something called the Snowbird Strut, which was a dance that, and I had this idea for a music video where like wintertime starts to hit in New England, starts to get real cold, and you start seeing like old people like packing up after, maybe the holidays or packing up their cars and seeing all this drudgery and the traffic going down Route 95, which is just, going through all the major cities and all these people, just kind of show this migration and then they finally get down to Florida at some point and totally let loose. Everyone's in like, bathing suits and they got some sort of dance that goes together. And that was my original idea for the Snowbird Strut. So when I'm hearing that song, I think I called it Retirement Home Rock for a while. It
Uh,
was called Retirement Home Rock.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so whatever, I'm always coming up with little ideas that make the songs fun and interesting for me. Another funny thing about that song is it got used in another video that went very viral. And it's like an American sort of conservative meme news outlet on YouTube. And so I get equally as many people writing to me from that channel, which,
Mhm.
is just as funny. And he has a meme series, I think, called it's Time to Leave Earth. And it
Oh,
basically
right.
plays that song and it has all these quick clips of just terrible stuff that happened in the news. And,
Oh,
it's very easy to highlight that in America.
yeah,
So he
yeah.
uses that. So I get tons of people writing to me saying, it's time to leave Earth. It's time to leave it. It's like some sort of so and there couldn't be different groups, the Emma Chamberlain fans and then these like sort of conservative meme people, and they combine and meet up at this music video where I'm a bunch of gnomes. So I don't think there's any way around the meme culture at this point. You make a song and it goes into this digital thing and you don't know what's going to happen to it. And so you just have fun and adjust or whatever.
I think it's a good sign that considering America seems to be kind of like two warring groups of people. I mean, that's what I feel like the coverage I get of it. But like the fact that you can somehow find you've managed to combine these warring factors with your music, that's a good
I'm
thing in
always
itself.
I'm always trying. I'm always trying.
So how did you like what is the how did you create that sound, especially on that album? Like it has a very kind of like heavenly, beautiful sort of I found it very relaxing. There's one song where it gets pretty intense, but then I found it like find it very relaxing in terms of I can see myself just um sort of high on some sort of mushrooms and like just bringing it all in.
Um, that must be the Irishman in you.
It is the Irishman in me, yeah. The Liberty Caps are very strong.
Finn, do you know that I'm 100% Irish?
Are you 100% Irish?
I'm 100%. I,
So
I
both your
got
parents
my
are Irish
genealogy and it was both of my parents,
or
both of
American, like
my
yeah.
grandparents are from here. Yeah. My family
Okay.
came over to America in 1906 to the
Oh,
same to the same part of Boston.
and what
And
and where did they did you know where they come from in Ireland?
well, I think my father's family's up in some part of Donegal originally,
Oh yeah,
a
okay.
lot of the Gallaghers are. But
Yeah,
I have family.
Rory Gallagher. I wonder if you have any relation to the
Yeah, I don't
guitarist.
know. And then Mayo, I have family. Sligo, which when I
Yeah,
say
cool.
that to Irish people, they kind of laugh that I'm a hog farm or something. Um,
The
but
H is
yeah,
from Sligo.
yeah,
Don't not be knocking Sligo.
okay,
So yeah.
yeah. So I still have family over there as well. So
Yeah, is
yeah,
that what
and my,
the I
my
was just trying
father
to
and I actually play Irish music here sometimes around certain holidays and stuff. My dad definitely plays Irish music. I back him up.
what kind of music would you play?
Well, he'll play a combination of different stuff, some instrumentals, but then he'll play like rebel music and stuff a bit and other stuff because my pops grew up in Boston,
Yeah, of
where
course.
yeah, where they were
Celtics.
still sending money to the IRA and stuff like that and singing rebel tunes and some of them it's almost like you can insert it for certain things that are still just happening in the world. So some of the tunes are cool. I know in Irish culture these days that's considered like what conservative or stuff that people don't sing. And
Yeah, it's just
things
very
like that.
content. I think it's very uh just
People don't
because of
want
what
to be
happened in
nationalistic,
yeah,
but
just
yeah,
because of
yeah, and
Northern Ireland, like people don't want to be like flaming. There's still people who probably love it, and but um, I think
yeah.
it would be yeah. I don't know. I think
Yep.
it's
No, no, I mean it's
yeah.
good for cultures in some ways to obviously move on beyond strife and violence and things like that.
Mm.
But um, but yeah, of course, like you know, my father's a musician. I'm a musician as well. So yeah, sometimes he'll rip into like Black and Tans, you know, and he'll play that song and like rip
Yeah,
it, you
yeah.
know, like really shred it. And so it's not like he's trying to start a revolution, but
No, of course not. Yeah, I
yeah,
think
but it's nice to
yeah,
hear some songs of the old days and just have an understanding of what happened not that long ago.
yeah. It's very
Really not
interesting
that long ago. Yeah.
how much I watched Gangs in New York recently, and I had no idea of the like the kind of hatred that Irish people felt like got when they first arrived in America, and I didn't really understand. I of course I'd heard about it. I had gone to there's a really good museum. It's called the Oma Folk Park. It's in Northern Ireland. It's in Tyrone, but it's about uh, it depicts what Ireland was like in the kind of 19th century. But it does a depiction of the boats. You go onto one of the boats and they show you what it was like and how people were stacked together and everything. And I mean, it's fascinating from a historical point of view about how people, what why they left and the connection between America.
Yeah,
I certain, yeah.
my great grandmother came over when she was 13 and she
Wow.
came over with her older brother and her older brother died on one of those boats.
Oh my
And so
God.
she got here by herself. And I think she had an aunt or someone here, but then she ended up having something like 9 kids. So so then the family just ballooned. But yeah, it was at first really, really hard. Like we have a big poster in our practice space. It says Irish need not apply, just because that was all around America. You know,
Ah, yeah.
it was a different thing when you first came in. But you know, I don't identify super hard with being Irish, but I am. You know,
Hmm.
there's no doubt about it. There's absolutely no doubt about it.
Yeah, I'd be the same though. And I live in Ireland. I don't identify super hard as being Irish, but I recognize that I'm from there, and
Yeah, I mean, I love
yeah.
being in America where there's a million different cultures, but you know, back to the mushrooms. That's why we got into the Irish.
Well, yeah, that's the Liberty Caps.
And
They're
yes,
particularly strong.
correct, correct. The song on that same album is the Snowbird Strut. There's a song called Sea of Ancestry.
Yeah, I have.
And
Yeah, that's a great song.
yeah, that
Love that.
song I actually imagined like the boats coming over and my family coming through from Ireland. And that was kind of like when I was making that song, it was just sort of thinking about that, just like a boat coming through the Sea of Ancestry.
That's so. That's it. That's. I mean, um, I don't know if you've ever done Liberty Caps, but I got a strong sense of being connected to my ancestors. And when I did them, I'd know I'd never thought about the idea before, and I'd never but I remember doing it and feeling like incredible. One, I felt like a Celtic warrior, and then I felt like the mythical Irish myths, which I feel a strong connection to. I don't know why they're really cool. And then
Yeah, man.
also then like the idea of yeah, like ancestors. It is weird how we don't really maybe modern our current climate doesn't really seem to have much talk about like people that went before us or what happened and those kind of lineage. It's not really ever talked about. It seems like a shame.
Yeah, or if it is somehow it's like with the understanding that we're somehow so much like smarter or better or you
Yeah,
know.
there's kind of a ridicule around it. Yeah, like
Yeah, I mean we've
they're really
invented
dumb.
things that are amazing, but I bet there was internal technologies to some of these ancient cultures that were way more strengthened than we have now, you know, like so.
Absolutely, I think. Well, um, yeah, I don't know. I don't think that they were maybe so focused. They had a much better balance. I think maybe they would. I mean, we've definitely improved in some ways. I mean, we don't have like well, we do have a lot of wars, so I don't think maybe yeah, but we don't have the same kind of balance. I feel like a lot of these societies had a way of kind of living in harmony a lot better with the world rather than kind of looking to constantly trying to gain advantage over it or exploit it or Um,
Absolutely.
and when did what was it? There's the one here, the last song on that album. I looked that up. Is that Irish? Is that Tribe of
That's
Dunsany?
so
That's
funny, man. I was just going to bring that up.
yeah.
Yeah, Tuatha. Well, so that's a play on, and it's cool. You're probably the first person to pick that up. So that's a play on two different things. One is like apparently there's some mythical Irish race called Tuatha De Danann.
Yeah, yeah, I've
Have you
heard. Yeah, yeah,
heard that?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. And so that one's just fun to look up. When I look it up and I think about like some sort of ancestry or why I like the forest or whatever, I'm like, okay, maybe there's some connection there. So that one's just fun. But I replaced the word Danann with Dunsany, which is Lord Dunsany is one of my favorite writers. I don't know if you ever heard
I
of
know.
him, but
Yeah, yeah,
he's,
I have.
he was
Yeah,
from
yeah,
Ireland.
yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of like a J.R. Tolkien from Ireland and came a little bit before Tolkien. So my friend Edon, and you should look up Edon's music if you've never heard him,
Okay,
Edan. So
okay.
that tune, Tuath De Danann, Dunsany, he's just playing guitar, my friend Edon.
Yeah, notice the guitar is lovely on that. Yeah.
He's just improvising. He maybe improvised 6 or 7 times, and I went in with the razor and just cut it all up and spun things around and just kind of add a little tribal beat. And then actually we made a music video for that I haven't released, and maybe I will. That is like a tour of. It's funny that all this Irish stuff is coming up, but the music video was like a weird tour of Ireland as if it was like an old 70s documentary, and we cut up all this footage of it was cool. I just haven't released it. I should,
You should
but
definitely
yeah,
look
that's
at yeah. You should look at Dunsany. Is where he was from, Lord Dunsany. I think that's Meath. That's right. It's very near to a place called Newgrange, and I don't know if you have you heard of Newgrange.
no.
So Newgrange is a passage grave. It's like it's built around the same time, I think like Stonehenge, and they built
Oh,
it perfectly. Like there's a lot of these monuments around the world. It's crazy, but they built it perfectly to align with the winter solstice.
nice.
So it they have tombs inside it, and it's a circle, and there's two like sister sites as well, and it's a perfect circle built with these stone. Like you don't know how I don't know how they did it. It's like crazy, like like Neolithic people. And then
It's amazing.
on the winter solstice, the light hits it, and it lights up all the graves, and then they said that that would then lift the spirits of the dead to like the afterlife. So
It's awesome.
it's a really cool place. I mean, and I'm sure you could get some if you need some video footage. I'm sure there's many 70s Irish documentaries about Newgrange
Yes.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Totally.
you could definitely nick some
Nice.
footage from maybe.
Nice. Yeah, I'm trying to get over to Ireland in the next couple months with my dad. He turns 75, and I said, let's go up. Well, I've never really spent time in Donegal, and that seemed interesting to go check that out for a while. And I've
It's
toured over
remote,
there a
yeah.
few times, and I've done some trips, since I was younger. But sorry, this podcast is all becoming about Ireland. But
I love it. I don't mind. I'd scrap
okay,
whatever.
okay,
Yeah.
good, good.
I'm. It's just interesting to hear because I'm also interested about what the kind of like perception is of Ireland in in Boston. Obviously, it's highly Irish, but like, is it maybe hyper Irish? Like, so sometimes I feel like Americans are almost more Irish. They're more fixated on the idea of Ireland than Irish people. Like, it's kind of a weird thing that happens.
Well, that's certainly a thing that happens,
Mm,
and it happens everywhere. I think is yeah, you romanticize the back home or something
mm,
like that. You create maybe a version of that that's maybe, when you're in Ireland, you're like, yeah, it's all right. It'd be cool to get out of here, go somewhere else. Because I have friends from Ireland. Where I run a little jazz club in Massachusetts in Cambridge, and right next door is this beautiful Irish pub called the Druid, and
mm,
that's been there forever. And I love the guys that work in there. But yeah, I mean, they love America, and they'll go visit Ireland again, but they kind of would rather just be in America at this
yeah.
point. And so you can see it. And I think for a lot of Americans that are maybe Irish, like I could see myself living in Ireland just to,
Mm,
and maybe this is a perception, but maybe to slow down a little bit, because America is pretty intense with, the digital, the Zooms, all the
yeah, yeah.
things. It's just a lot going on. And there was times when I'd go to Ireland and be like, wow, in some ways it feels like it's like 10 years behind America, and not in a
Oh
bad
God,
way.
yeah. No, I totally, I did.
Yeah, in a good
It
way.
is,
Like I
yeah.
remember when I first went there, which was the late 90s, maybe like 97 or something. And I remember people being like, "We're going to the disco, we're going to the disco." And I remember going to the disco and being like, "What the heck is this? This is just like someone with like a tape player and there's like a light or two." It's like in America, things like the disco are just so sensory too much.
Mm.
It's like intense. And so Ireland, it did seem, especially in the late 90s, just a little more simple. Like it was almost like, oh, you're not going to easily find internet. There's just, I don't know. It's just, there's something. So in my head, sometimes when I think of, oh, it'd be nice to make a little studio or spend a few years sort of just a little more quiet, I do think about Ireland. So I don't know. I think people romanticize it for sure. But also, man, it's so amazingly beautiful and sweet there. So
Ireland is a really fantastic. I think it's like very we don't appreciate it enough. People in Ireland are constantly talking about like there's someone else better. I think that's a thing that's happened for hundreds of years, where people want to
yep.
go. I mean, I want to go. I want to live in America, to be honest myself, but not because I hate Ireland, but just because I love the
No,
idea
I mean,
of,
you're on a little
yeah,
island.
yeah,
It'd
yeah.
be nice to see some
But
other stuff.
I totally agree with you that I think that's a city thing. I think like Dublin is becoming more and more uh fast paced and kind of like
Yes.
digitalized. And I kind of like, I'm definitely more of a, I think Dublin is good though because it hasn't fully gone. You're so close to like the wilderness all the time. You just like take, it's like 30 minutes and you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So it's not, yeah, it's because it's small, it can never get that kind of insanity like America has, where it's just like, these huge cities with like millions of people. Um, like I remember going to New York. I've only been to New York in America, but when I went to New York, I was like gobsmacked. I went to Times Square and I actually like was shook. I just could not.
Well, that's unbelievable. That's like in all of America, that's kind of like ground zero for
Yeah.
insanity. Like the concentration of energy. It's like,
Yeah.
and there's like live streaming cameras everywhere. That's an intense spot.
It's crazy. I mean, it was cool. It was like I've never done cocaine, but it felt like real life cocaine. It was just like just so intense.
Yeah.
Um,
Can you imagine there's people that live in that little area just basically doing cocaine?
I don't know. I don't know how they survive. I mean, I think
Oh
that,
God.
yeah.
New York is a magical, ridiculous spot.
It's really cool though. I love the city. I think I'd probably go insane if I lived there, but I kind of need to have, I need to be able to like walk. Although the Central Park and stuff like that, it's pretty nice. Um, and I suppose,
Yeah,
yeah, but
you need a little bit of outdoors. Where you live?
yeah, I live in Dublin, so
Okay.
yeah, but it's I have family in Cavan, and so and I go like all over. I've been sort of to a few different places. I go different places in Ireland in the summer, and the countryside in Ireland is some of the best countryside in the. I challenge, like, I don't know, it's just so pretty and it's so just relaxing and really amazing. I think that's the other thing, people just don't talk about how amazing it is. Like I'm gonna go to Kerry pretty soon, and we have the Skelligs. There's like the Skelligs, and then we're saying the Blaskets, and it's like completely no electricity on these places. You just go there and you're in the middle of this like vastness. Um, it's really special, and I think so. I don't think people romanticize that. I think you're when you have the idea of like, oh yeah, this is have a studio or like being the Ireland, it's a lot slower, and like, yeah, there's places in the west of Ireland that they don't even have internet. They can't even get it still. But like the water is kind of fucked as well. Like so,
Mm, that sucks.
it
But yeah,
sucks, but it's
it's
cool.
appealing in some ways. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when I first visited Ireland, my family didn't have indoor plumbing. They just had outhouse. And I remember that was the first time I'd seen that. And I was like, whoa, okay. This is y'all just have an outhouse. And it was amazing to see that. And um yeah, that's really interesting. I've done a ton of traveling in the United States. Because I had a band that was quite successful
Yeah,
for
yeah,
many
yeah,
years. So
yeah.
we
I've done
spent
it.
a ton of time on the road. So that's one thing that I would suggest everyone do a little bit if they can, is just take a tour of America, get a van or something and just,
Yeah, I'm planning
you
on
know,
doing that. It's funny you say that. Yeah.
yeah, take
Yeah.
like a month or something, or more if you can. But yeah, just because there's so many different pockets of the US. I'm not someone in terms of the US that's very divided one way or the other because I've spent so much time in all these different places that there's beautiful things about all the different states, all the different cities, and there's good people in all directions. I think sometimes the perception of America being super polarized is because that's definitely what gets people to watch the news or
Oh,
gets
of
people to,
course. Yeah, yeah.
everyone's forming these opinions, they're like, I'm on this side, I'm on this side. Yeah, there's good people everywhere, and
Absolutely. Yeah.
and it's a lot more intermeshed than I think people actually give it credit for. I think that the media really separates everybody, but you know.
Yeah. See, I love the idea of like, for me, the idea of America is really like, I don't know, I do see it as a place where you can, obviously some people take it too far, but like where you can go and you can pursue the things that you want to pursue. And to me, the idea of like, I study zoology as well, so I'm a zoologist as well as like a musician. The idea of being in the Pacific Northwest, like
Yeah, man.
Oregon, Washington, just wilderness. Uh, I want to hunt. I'm not maybe some of my environmentalist friends don't like that, but I think the idea of hunting like deer that are overrunning a place is a cool thing, and America seems to have the ability to do that without the kind of restrictions that other place has, which is obviously a double-edged sword, but um, it's cool. I love that idea.
I think it's super cool. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the wild America, the parts of it that are just, and that is like Oregon, especially Southern Oregon. I lived during the pandemic for quite a while in this town called Cave Junction, and it was a really interesting spot where, yeah, there's a cross of hunting. There's like hippies that grow pot, but then there's also like conservative libertarian people that carry guns, but everyone sort of like figures out how to all live together because there's so much land. It's so wild. Yeah, it's amazing to be somewhere where you can be cruising around and you just realize that the surroundings can just swallow you up and you'd be nothing. I mean, there's like times where you're on the road in Oregon and you're like, I've been driving for 45 minutes. I haven't seen a single car. And I'm on these windy roads and you're way up in the mountains. And it's just, it's unfathomable how big that area is. And yeah, it's cool. I don't eat meat. I haven't eaten meat in a long, long time, 25 years.
Hmm.
But when I go to restaurants there, I always like that I see like, organic elk burgers that are
Hmm.
like hunted here, like things like that. Because elk is one of those animals that they don't um they don't have farms of elk. So if you get elk somewhere, it's gonna be from outside and hunted.
That's fun.
So
I was vegetarian, but
yeah.
for me, I think meat. I like. I want to eat meat, and I think for me personally, like for my diet, I think it works for me. But I want to hunt
Yeah.
it. I don't want to have to. I don't want to, partake in a system that is exploiting animals. And the thing for me is the killing of it is really important. So like you actually being there and killing the animal yourself for me is a really big thing because I think it means that you're respecting the animal, you're respecting the fact that you're eating it. And it's not just like this, oh, I'm gonna walk in the supermarket and just take this fucking burger off the shelf. It's just yeah.
I think that's
Uh
beautiful, man. Yeah, yeah, I
yeah.
mean, I think that's beautiful. That's the ultimate way to go. I don't necessarily have any sort of issues with anything anyone wants to do, especially eating meat. And I think that if you do it that way, that is the most, I think I made a choice at a certain point because of the ease of getting meat and how meat was making its way into everything. And it was just constant. It was just this thing where it's like, do we really need to sacrifice an animal like 3 times a day at all times or sprinkle it in our potato chips and have bacon martinis? And um, so yeah, I mean, I think if someone wants to hunt or if they even know their local butcher, those
Yeah.
types of things, but you have any idea about what this meat is. And that
In
goes for
Ireland,
most food. That
it's in
goes for a
Ireland,
lot
it's
of
a
food.
lot better. It's a lot better than America.
Yeah.
Like, the connection between the person who's getting the meat is a lot closer than I think it. We don't really have factory farm. I don't know if we do. I think if they are, they're not big. They're not
Yeah.
incentivized.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it is a massive issue. I mean, in America, Jesus Christ, like it's so
Oh
bad.
man. Yeah, in California, it's brutal. Like they have all these times where they're running out of water. And if you look at how much cows are using the water up and the land to have the cows, and then also almonds, it's like anytime a crop starts to do well, they're like, okay, now let's grow so much of it and use so much of the resources that now we don't have water. So it's like, yeah, there's a place, and I mean, if you drive up the coast of California, it's brutal. There's a part that we always used to call Cowshewitz because it's a field. I mean, it's terrible. It's a field
Yeah,
of cows set to be slaughtered that goes on and on and on and on and on, and it just smells for a half hour on the highway. You know, it's unbelievable. And you're thinking to yourself, like, this is what people are eating? Like, oh dear God, you know.
yeah, yeah,
But I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. I try to keep myself pretty low on the food chain so that that's not an issue for me
yeah,
personally,
yeah.
you know.
Well, that
Yeah.
can't be good for your body either to be eating that kind of produce. You know, like an animal kept like that is not a healthy animal, and you're eating it. It's not a good thing for anyone. It's just
Yeah.
bad all around, I
Yeah,
feel.
yeah, taken in a life of such suffering and pain and yeah, it seems rough. I mean, all these animals have like offspring, they have parents, like there's definitely connections. It's not like these are just non-sentient creatures. So
No,
yeah,
oh God, no. I mean,
yeah,
when
so it's
you, yeah,
difficult. I think hunting, I think those types of things, I think like I don't know enough about like ethical, you know, having of animals and then killing them at some point to eat them. I don't know. I'm sure there's ways of doing it. I know there's people that definitely raise animals and then they have a connection and feel really bad and are super grateful when they're able to use, you know, the pieces of the animals and um so yeah, it's you know, it is what it is. Occasionally, I'll eat a little cheese, but other than that, yeah. When I was like 20 years old, I went to a meditation retreat that I was not expecting to turn into a vegetarian, and I did. Um, it was really unexpected. Up until when I was 20, I never even thought twice about, you know, eating meat or not. I just ate meat all the time. So that was interesting. That kind of took me by surprise, and that set me on a course, I think, for my whole life. You know, it was very interesting. Culturally, I've been more inspired by Indian culture probably than anything, which is
yeah,
always really interesting. When I say I'm Irish, but culturally, there's so much that I've learned and taken in or feel familiar from Indian culture, which is odd, but it just is
yeah.
what it
I
is.
had the same feeling about, again, like I didn't really have much of a connection with the kind of Eastern ideas until I did mushrooms, and then all of a sudden I just couldn't. I did them, and then all of a sudden all I could think about, like, I just started to feel really spiritual, but not in a kind of like, I just felt like really like, what is this? Whatever happened, something was like um happened that I just couldn't really put my finger on. And then yeah, I started like reading the Tao. That was the one that I got kind of made the most sense to me. And then like Buddhist philosophy, and then yeah, lots of the like kind of Indian scriptures, the Sanskrit and things like that. And then I did a lot of meditation, and then I just started doing yoga properly now. And I know you do lots of yoga because I saw that on your video. I think that's really cool. And how long have you been doing yoga for?
Been doing yoga a long time. Maybe I think I started in 2005. So yeah, been a while. Um, and I started meditating, I think, in about 2000, or at least formally learning how to meditate and do breathing. Um, and yeah, that's actually the last couple of months I've been living at a yoga ashram in Virginia.
Okay.
And I go down there a good amount. And sometimes I help, I'll train teachers. And then other times I'll take courses from more advanced teachers. And but yeah, yoga is amazing. It definitely helped me. You know, I spent a lot of years on the road touring and things. So, and I was in a rock and roll band, and
Mm.
so finding yoga, um, it was it was a good thing for me, for my health, for my
Oh
personal
God,
health.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I was partying a lot,
Yeah,
and just
music is not the healthiest of careers if you
it
don't manage it
depends how you do
properly.
it. But I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
now I'm in a certain vibration with the music that is healthy. It's pretty
Of
cool.
course.
Like
Yeah, yeah.
these days when I'm playing gigs, I'm playing like a yoga studio, or I'm playing at a place where people are all laying down with blankets and I'm projecting visuals on the ceiling. And so I've certainly, I mean, I did it on purpose, but I got myself out of bars mostly, at
Yeah,
least for
yeah.
right now. There's always the itch to turn on an electric guitar and be loud and rock out. And sometimes that's needed. So I don't know.
Mm.
There are times where I'm like, feel like I need to be loud
Yeah,
again.
I don't drink. I'm probably like the opposite to the most likely, but I don't drink at all.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't
so
drink
like
either.
it's like very I think it it definitely is not like you don't your music changes, and then also as well I think like I don't know, yeah, maybe the vent you kind of want people to have a certain energy, which I presume an ashram is very good because most people probably be pretty attentive. They wouldn't. They're not
Good energy
looking.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They're not looking. They're listening. Which is I think is the best thing a musician can ask for is a attentive listening audience.
Yeah, man. I played at the ashram when I first got there, and I hadn't performed a lot of the meditation music that I've been doing there because I made it at the beginning of the pandemic and I hadn't been down to this ashram. And I've been going to this place for a while, so it's comfortable to me. So last time I was there, someone asked me, "Oh, would you want to play, in the evening?" And I'm used to playing events in cities where I'll play at a yoga studio or I'll play it somewhere, and people come and they're definitely like um great audiences and they really have a great experience. And I do a thing with like deep relaxation with a meditation and things. So it's good. But doing it at the ashram, talk about attentive. I'm like playing and I'm just looking out and I can see silhouettes and things. And there's people that are just in meditation, lotus position for an hour. There's people in headstands that are just, there's body parts moving all around in these like wild ways. Everyone's completely silent and just stays there like so, and it was so inspiring to play to.
Mm,
Um, yeah, when the audience is like on a higher vibration than than you are, you're like, oh, I better step up. Usually a crowd's a little buzzed or something like that. You can kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
play with them. But yeah, we go into a room of like all these yogis and they're all tuned in. It's inspiring. It's cool though. Very cool. What kind of music do you make then?
Um, I'm kind of like I think in the I love ambient music, but I also have massive like folk and kind of like rock. Like the Grateful Dead are my favorite band. I've loved them since
Like,
I was about 17. I've listened to like so much of their music. So I think a kind of mixture of like yeah, American and Irish. That's what I think. I think I really am like American Irish. So it's like, uh, you know, I'm actually wearing like my little country. I have a huge. My granddad was
wait, who is
massively
that
in.
again?
Oh no, it's just a horse thing.
Oh,
I got it from a relative, and it's from I think they got it when they were in Nashville or in Texas or something.
it's awesome.
Um,
That's beautiful.
so my granddad was like massively into cowboy films and like country stuff. So that really influenced a lot of like the kind of like I was previously called Americana, like a
Yeah.
um kind of like I see myself as kind of like a redneck hippie, kind of like a mash of like uh I love like country music and
Yeah.
folk music, American folk music, and a lot of that's influenced by Irish people, obviously, as well.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
then, so yeah, I feel like maybe in a past life I was like a Confederate soldier or something. There's just something in my brain that just like, that just,
Confederate. Good God.
yeah, I don't know if that's the right thing. I think it must be because I just have like my politics definitely don't align with that, but my like my something in me like really like just loves that
You get me an
that kind of
hour into the
thing.
podcast and then you start talking about being a Confederate general.
Uh, well, just a
Oh,
soldier in
but
the Civil War, whatever that. I don't pick
yeah,
sides,
no,
but
I'm going for that look too.
yeah, yeah, no, yeah, you got to. It's a good look. Um, but there's just something about it. I don't know. Yeah, I was saying earlier
No,
about
I
like
know
the
what you
kind
mean.
of
That folk
yeah.
kind of that folk era, like in that type of stuff. I know the feeling for sure. I make that kind of music with my pops. My dad's into that for sure. I grew up with all country music, and we have a little cowboy band, not just Irish music. We do stuff from the 20s and the 30s and 40s. Like
Mm.
I'll send you some of that. You'd
Yeah,
enjoy
please
it,
do.
I
Yeah,
think. Yeah, yeah.
because my granddad one was like when I was younger, I have distinct memories of watching like we watched like Dances with Wolves, Last of the Mohicans, which the music in
Nice.
that is just so
Oh
good
yeah.
that I and it's like then I had a then I feel like kind of like in Native American music and those kind of things. They maybe when I was a kid, they just sort of um like I heard a lot of it and it kind of it's so amazing. It's such a rich like culture and um yeah, I don't know what it is. Something captivated my imagination since I was a kid about that. The freedom is the only word I can describe it. There's something vast about America that just seems so like free. It's just like you just said. Um, so it was really I think that is a massive influence on my music, and then also the Irish thing as well. Irish music has a massive influence, like the folk music has a massive influence on what I'd make. But then I love your style as well because it has a kind of I like a lot of ambient electronic music as well, and you kind of combine, which I love. You kind of I feel like you get that like the mixture of the ambient, but then you also it's very peaceful, relaxful, and kind of spiritual as well, which I love. It's kind of a combination of the things.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's just kind of the vibration I like to be in. Like even if
Mm,
I'm making weird music or kind of making some rock or some weird pop music, there's a part of me that's sitting in sort of a meditative place to make the
mm,
music. And usually when I'm sitting in that place, it does have some I don't know. When I think of ambient music, I think of drones. So usually it has some tones that are just overlapping through the chords or something that's making you, yeah, relaxed while you're listening to it too, sort of like bringing you in, you know. That's at least that's what I've been doing the last several years, it feels like.
and
Um
what so on
the meditation album I made was literally trying to make it while meditating a lot. So
so that's the inner sound one, is it? That's that.
yeah, the inner
Yeah,
sound.
I like, yeah, that's a lot. It's cool. I mean, it's kind of like it's not like what I like about it is it's not like the other one seems to be more like songs, like individual songs. This one's like a sound space
Yeah.
where you're kind of like really
Yeah.
like yeah.
Yeah, I wanted it to be something that didn't feel well, you know, when you're meditating or you're just being in spirit or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
You can't call it anything, but when you're in that zone, it's not like it has some chorus and then a verse and then a chorus and then you know,
Mm,
it's just free flowing and just keeps going. So when I was making that record, my idea was to make it feel like it was just continuous and not necessarily if something was repeating, it was one little phrase and then there'd be new things on top of it. Much like when you're meditating, you know, it's not like things are just they're never going to stay the same. So yeah, that record I more try to have it almost like you don't remember much. So you have to listen to it a bunch and then it can kind of be in the background. But then also, if you want to listen with headphones, it's really rewarding. Like if you want to take some mushrooms and listen to the inner sound, like with headphones on, and it's 3 hours long. It's pretty rewarding because the sounds are moving all around. And I tried to make it like an experience for someone that wanted to just sit and meditate for 3 hours. Even the sequence of it, I tried to make it where say you know I didn't make it for people taking mushrooms but I made it for people meditating and that's
yeah.
the similar psychedelic experience. So say you
Mm,
wanted to go real deep, I did make it so you could start it from the beginning and meditate, and if depending on how far you want to go, like you could, you know, go the whole record. And I tried to make it so nothing would pull you out too far at all, nothing. And whereas the other records I do things to make you interested and make sounds, but that the inner sound I tried to make it so that you could just put it on and enter that state of just like accepting and relaxing, and nothing was gonna try grabbing you too much or making you think too much. And so yeah, I think that one worked. I was psyched on the inner sound. I like the way that one came out.
It does work because I think my philosophy now is like I took I think mushrooms trip me in the right in a direction, but now I literally don't take anything. I'm trying. I think what my practice is, it's like it's basically like a scientific experiment to see can I recreate what happened to me so I know that it's real, because otherwise it's just like, to me it's just like um just a it's just some drug, you know what I mean? I want to know that it's
Yeah.
actually like it's like a thing that I can experience it myself, and I can in these when you do lots of deep meditation, lots of yoga and things like that, it's really does seem to open up the same thing, but without the kind of like the other stuff of like taking a drug, which I don't really not really interested in. But
Yeah.
that album is fantastic because it you're when you said that, that's really true. It doesn't have anything that like catches your brain in terms of like intense melody, like a melody that's really gripping and you're kind of like, oh yeah, you're super focused. It's like it is like a space. And yeah, I can't really pinpoint a track in it where I'm like, oh yeah, but I the whole feel of it is exactly like that, where it's like you get in that state, which is really nice.
What's interesting is now that I've been sitting with the record for a few years, like I know all of the melodies that are in there. And it's really rewarding once you start remembering some of them, because there's some pretty sweet ones in there, but they're all just tucked in and moved around in these ways. It was fun. It was fun to work on that one for sure.
Do
Um,
do you think that like how much did it obviously Indian music influence that, but like how much does the a lot of Indian music has a kind of very, not all of it, but some of it has a very kind of like melody that you almost forget that you're listening to a melody. That's the way I kind of feel about it. It's so trance-like. I mean, some of the songs just
yeah,
I love it.
yeah, like a raga.
Yeah.
I think they call it raga. And so, well, a lot of the songs, maybe six of them on there, maybe five of them. My friend Arjun, who's Indian and he's a sitar player, he got the sort of hypnotic thing going that just repeats for the whole time. And with the music that he plays, it's considered amazing if you can come up with a little riff that repeats and then you play it perfectly for 20 minutes without changing it.
Mm.
So he would do that and then let me just play little solos on top of it or just express a little melody on top of it. And yeah, agreement with that. So ragas, different times of day in Indian culture, and I don't go too deep with it. Like I don't, I'm not doing it, but that's how traditionally it's done, where there'll be like maybe eight notes or maybe five notes going up, four notes going down. There's like these little expressions, and they have to do with the time of day when you'd be playing them. And so you'd have a drone going and you'd be playing in that scale or that melody. And that keeps changing throughout the day and the time. And you can see there's a lot of ragas and you can see what time they're traditionally played at and stuff like that. So it's not like we were approaching it exactly like that, but we were in some ways for sure. I guess personally, I'm okay with this point in my music career to just play. I don't need to uh oh, this is this raga, this
Mm.
is this additional thing, this is this. I just play, and what's coming out is me and whatever I've taken in, and I've gotten to the point with that, so I'm cool with it being like the Jesse raga, whatever it is. These are the notes that move me, so I just play. But yeah, definitely inspired by that. Those beautiful melodies, like the soundtracks to Satyajit Ray movies. Um,
Okay. Oh yeah, yeah. That's weird that you said
yeah,
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, his music is incredible, and he did a lot of his own music. And those are just like little melodies that are just beautiful. Sometimes it goes major to minor, and it
But they're
goes
so
back to major.
simplistic as well.
So simple.
It's unbelievably powerful how simple they are. That's what I'm always
Yep.
blown away by.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's
Yeah.
like the timing of it matched with the simplicity of it. And I think that's a big thing in music. It's being brave enough to be, you know, you can't hide behind it's not like, oh, in your face virtuosic or everything. It's just like really simple. Um, and that can be difficult sometimes, I think, as a musician, just to be that
Oh yeah,
open. You know what I mean?
yeah, yep. Yeah, you're exposed. I mean, at this point, I've been exposed for so long, I don't care. But I run a music club, so I see a lot of people expressing themselves with music and stuff. And yeah, sometimes there's a tendency to legitimize yourself by making things really complicated, and because you can do that. And some people like that also. Some people love going to see a show where some guy's freaking out and tapping and doing all that stuff. So, and I see that all the time, different things like that. But yeah, I guess over time, like the reason why I make music has changed. Maybe at a certain point when I was younger, it was just to get out there, to rock out. Like I felt an energy to move people, and it was in a positive way, but it was more like energetic rock and roll, get people drinking, get people partying. I was
Mm.
all about that. I was all about that. Yeah, and as I get older, it's just my reasons for making the music kind of changes, and then the intention behind the music changes, and yeah, it's interesting.
Um, what?
Someone
Sorry,
else
what?
that was
Yeah,
really
you go.
sorry, I
No,
was
go
going to
ahead.
say
Go ahead.
someone else that was very inspiring in making that music or the ambient music is this. I just wanted to tell you so you could look it up sometime. This guy Yasos,
Okay.
Iasos, and
A.
Yasos is from the Northern California area. He made music out there forever. And he made some of the first what we would consider new age records in the late 70s. And when I was first given the job of doing this album of meditation music, I wrote to him and said, can I come out there towards you out in California and just, maybe meet with you and see if you have any ideas for this project? And he was like, yeah, totally, come out. And so I was able to spend some time with him and just kind of glean some knowledge from him. And his records are incredible. So maybe I'm inspired in some ways by Indian culture in terms of sonics and creating a space and expressing like stuff in headphones. This guy Yasos, that was definitely one of my big inspirations. And if you listen to his albums, you're like, oh, these sound great. Um,
And what? And one thing that fascinated me from, especially from, like, I was kind of I'm still am, but I was when I was younger, I was obsessed with the Grateful Dead. I mean, I was absolutely obsessed.
yeah,
And I watched one of the documentaries on them and about the Haight-Ashbury and the like them taking a lot of LSD, and they described states of like telepathy and like not speaking but understanding what the other person is doing. Do you think in yoga and the ashram, do you think you experience that, and when you're playing for other people, do you go into like a state of trance like meditation where you can kind of sense what people are looking for in the music and you're responding to them, and it's kind of like beyond kind of traditional communication?
yeah, that's an interesting concept. Um, yeah, I mean, I think there's a sensitivity when you're creating music, especially when you're improvising music. There's a sensitivity to the room, and that includes all the energy in the room, the people, the way the sound bounces off the room, the lighting, the whole thing. And yeah, you're sort of taking in the information and then sending it back out. And I don't know if you can say telepathy in a way that's like you're have English words coming through
Yeah,
your
no,
brain.
no, yeah,
It's
that,
not it's
yeah,
not anything like that.
no, no, yeah.
But it certainly is something that happens. And I think the more you can hone in on that, you can lean into it and it sort of takes over in a way that like so I can relate it to my band when we used to when we used to play. Um, we used to take like one hit a pot right before we'd walk on stage, all the time. And it was kind of a way to link ourselves up together, like in that moment. And then we're about to walk on stage. And I don't know if the pot had to do with it or if we were smoked something else or whatever it was that we just like brought ourselves together. There were many, 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 many nights where we would have this other perception where time almost slowed down and you were able to communicate with each other musically in ways that you could just sense weren't in real time. That
Mm.
wasn't the way everyone else was experiencing time, if that makes sense.
Totally makes
Um,
sense. Yeah.
we used to call it our spidey sense. We'd
Mm.
laugh about when that would happen. But I remember with Apollo Sunshine, it would happen frequently. And I do think taking a little puff together of the weed, it wasn't like that the weed does it, but something about us all being on that same tip together at the same time. Maybe if we all had a lemonade at the same time, it'd do the same thing. But something about us like linking up together. And we would get into that zone where we were communicating on levels that were very subtle. Um, yeah. And it was fun because you could surprise the audience and you could do things that would totally blow the audience's mind. But it's just because you're on this, vibration together. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's not. I mean, I don't think it's even that. For me, it's not that unscientific or anything, or like it doesn't have to be scientific, but that um, you know, there was a time we have a brain that evolved along a time where we didn't have language, so we had to use different forms of communication, and that part of our brain is still there. I just don't think we maybe are attuned to it that often. We just maybe zone out of it. I don't know, but I think it's very powerful. I think there's something there, like when you're, if you can get yourself from that state where the big block is obviously your own sense of self or sense of self importance. If you're playing in a band and you're really focused on being the lead guy, and everything has to be about you, you're not going to be able to sink into that kind of like collective band framework. It's going to be pretty challenging to get there. But the Grateful Dead have a great thing where they're talking about it's about the music. They were serving the music. They were coming together to all create the music, and then that would allow them to be kind of like a single entity. It's really interesting the way they described it.
Yeah, that's the way to go. Beatles did the same thing.
Yeah.
I think when you're dealing with music, it's your intention behind the music is huge. So the Grateful Dead, the Beatles, maybe they wanted to also own a swimming pool and a nice car, but I
Mm,
know that they realized that they were doing a service to people and people were really needing that and wanting that. And so, yeah, they were kind of living a life of service, which in yoga life, like that's the goal is you're trying to be of service while you're on this planet. Um,
mm.
so approaching music as being of service to people, it gives you a much different understanding of how you're going to approach music than if you're like, I want to do music because XYZ. I want to be famous. I want people to know who I am. Like, I was just listening to some Imagine Dragons song that was like and that's not a band I've listened to, but the dude in the song is like making fun of someone because they're in the nosebleed seats at his show. And it's like, I'm like, man, you're a dick. You're like, you're like, you're like calling out the people that are in the bad seats at your show, like they're what, poor or cheap or something. It's like, it's just, so your intentions, and obviously that guy is thinking that because he's, thinking of himself as a rock star, as a big dude, as like, he's got all the vibes and whatever. And so you can approach it like that. And some of those people get so famous, they get massively popular, super, and that's their trip. They got to live that. That's their whole
Mm.
vibe. And they probably have trouble walking down the street. And, it's a whole thing. Um, and then there's people that use music for service and just to, yeah. And I think the Grateful Dead at a certain point was doing that to a certain point. And I think that some of their drug use and things like that were probably just to maintain, to keep doing that at a level
Oh
that
yeah,
they could,
it certainly
you know.
I mean, they had a lot of death and
Oh yeah, in the
yeah.
80s, he'd be in their Mercedes Benz smoking crack or
Mm,
whatever, And
yeah.
it's a lot harder to do yoga every single day, to keep your diet really good every single day, to meditate every day. And you get very similar effects, you really
Mm.
do. So you could be playing for thousands of people, and if you're tuned up and whatever, it has the same effects. But yeah, I don't.
It's kind of like the thing I noticed is that I wanted to go down. I think Bob Weir is pretty. He's taken the other route now, where he's kind of like
Yeah,
he's seriously
preserving.
about, yeah, yeah. He's like really about, he's constantly do. I think he does. I'm not sure if he does yoga. I'm pretty sure he does, but then he works out and he seems to take
Yeah.
really good care of himself. So,
Yep.
um, and I'm kind of along that. I think the kind of cultural idea of a musician needs to change. It needs to be like I don't see how being fucked up and taking those drugs can improve your music. I think it only can make it worse because I know from my own experience, like if you go down the road of sort of chasing that creativity through substances, it just leads to like basically you not being able to do anything. Just kind of like it's just sort of shit. I think it's not. It can be cool, but like
Yeah,
ultimately,
it can
it's
be
not.
cool, exactly,
Mm,
but maybe not lasting.
yeah.
It can be cool. And like, so I've been booking a music club for a long time. So I see all the patterns and the trends and the little things just by the, we only hold 100 people. So you get bands that are at 100 people, which is some good underground bands. But you see certain scenes that are just all about like being unhealthy and just like just being like pieces of shit
Mm,
basically. Like it's all heartache and it hurts and everyone's miserable and their clothing's like um so I don't know. I mean, I can't judge any of it because it all has its own place.
of course. Yeah, absolutely.
I do agree with you that the idea of what a musician is should change. And I think it is in a lot of
Mm,
ways by necessity. Like, because if you want to be as like active as other musicians, or if you want to be able to make appearances on social media, if you want to do certain things, like you got to kind of have it together. You can't just be blasted. I think people a long time ago, they maybe didn't have people with cell phones around all the time filming
mm,
them also. So
mm.
you can imagine what some of those rock stars were up to in the 70s and stuff, that was not filmed or documented. But yeah, I mean, I think in a lot of ways I've always felt that, but I think musicians and artists, but musicians a lot, we're like cultural leaders for
Mm,
people.
mm,
It's like I'm not saying I can always do it, but there's always musicians that they can take in what's happening with masses of people and bring it in and then sing about it and really that's something important. So I think that the cleaner and the healthier and the way that, the better we can treat the vessel of the body and everything like that, like we'll start channeling better material.
mm,
Um, and if you're gonna do psychedelics or something that's like a drug or whatever, be doing it more with like a real intention, with
mm,
something where you're creating a ceremony or something that you're trying to upgrade something in your life or
mm,
do something that's going to call in some good energies. Don't just do a drug and think of it as a drug or something that's illegal or something that's like bad, or no one wants to put that energy on. So if you want to do something that's going to somehow get you out of your regular mindset, really set an intention and be ceremonial about it and do the way that, ancestors would do it, or, don't just, watch Rick and Morty or something, take a bunch of mushrooms. And that's a great show. It really is.
yeah.
I'm just saying, like, if you want to do that type of thing,
Mm,
because I do think shamanic aspects of that sort of thing is important in musician circles too. I think
yeah.
musicians, some of them do, they are designed in a way that they can go to other realms and come back with information,
Mm,
without getting too far out. Like took mushrooms when I was a young man, like
mm,
17,
mm.
actually in these very woods.
Oh, nice.
I'm right now in my hometown right now.
Okay.
So in these very woods, I took mushrooms. And had an outer body experience where I actually floated out of my body and was looking at myself dead. And now that was probably too much mushrooms for a 17-year-old to take, and
Maybe,
it probably took
maybe,
me yeah,
yeah.
it took me years to integrate that in
Yeah,
some
yeah.
ways. Um,
The same. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but in the same way, like I'm glad that I did it like that in some ways where I was like in a field, in nature, in this thing where it it wasn't like I took mushrooms and then was insanely distracted by my cell phone, by a
Yeah.
computer, by all of these things that have nothing to do with like just the natural, like eating something that grows off cow shit and being in a field with no other distractions. You don't have any devices. I didn't even have a cell phone back then. Um, that's a different thing. What you're experiencing and what you're taking in and the meditation or the experience is different than taking something sort of recreationally in this way that's something really powerful and then just
Mm,
like back in our modern society. It's a difficult one. So
I had a very just to follow up on that because I was about I think I was like 19 maybe, and I think I did too much as well. But I had a very it was and it was really interesting that you said that because I remember I was with some of my friends at the time and we were listening to this music on the speaker and I thought that would be like I thought that'd be really cool. And the second it started to come on, I like the speaker was so loud and
yeah,
I was like, this is like another person. Like this is like so is interfering with me. And I just like ran into this room and I just sat there. And I had never really done that before, you know. I'd always been like kind of
yeah.
like just doing something, whether it was on like on the computer or whatever. And I still use technology a lot because I love it for creating things, but
Oh
I'm
yeah.
very cautious around like just sort of mindlessly using it. But that was it really was so powerful because I sat in that room and I looked at I remember like seeing hedges and trees and everything the way I'd seen it when I was younger and it really was like a real sort of now I can understand like you know a lot number of years later from doing meditation and different things that idea of like stillness and being kind of present I think was what the experience was. I didn't really know what it was at that time. But now I know it from especially like from doing yoga. You know, at the end of the yoga, I did yoga this morning and I thought I was gonna die. It was so intense. And like I just lay there at the end and I just sort of completely just still and like everything around me was still and exactly what the experience was like. So it definitely has that ability, you're right, if you use it that way.
Yeah, the corpse pose. You went into that zone. I think it's Shavasana. And
Shavasana, exactly.
honestly, like yoga teachers all the time, it's a joke with hatha yoga teachers that Shavasana is the hardest position because you do want to die. You want to get into that zone. When you go there, you're not thinking, you're not even there. You're just existing. You're just to be, you know. So that's a cool one, you know. And when you get to that space, it's like unbelievable when you can let that space extend longer and longer. Like I know yogis that are in their 70s, we're just hanging out with them, you feel like you're slipping into this presence
Mm,
of the present moment that is so
mm,
sweet and just and yeah, it's a practice, you know. It's a practice being more mindful, more mindful of the present. I have a problem right now with my cell phone, you know, like this thing is just, yeah, everyone does,
yeah,
but
everyone I have the same thing, so
it's really difficult.
it
And
is.
it's there's fundamental parts of my willpower and parts of me that are just like getting upset about it. And I can feel my brain being scrambled and just different things, and it's difficult. It's so easy to be pulled out in the external stimuli
Mm,
and get pulled out of yourself. There's times where I'll be on my phone and then quickly forget how I got onto my phone
mm,
and quickly have to reintegrate where I am. You
mm.
ever have that happen?
Oh yeah,
Like,
that
it'll
was
just be
yeah,
a quick second. It's like one of those like, ooh, where am I? And it's like, woof, okay, I'm going deep into this thing, a little too deep.
mm,
And I'm coming out not necessarily like with something to that I've built or with something that's lasting. It's just like this quick dopamine thing. And yeah, it's difficult. I'm fine, you know, that's one of my struggles. And I'll have a few great months and then a month or two where it's like, God damn, why am I on my cell phone so much? You know,
yeah, yeah.
my eyes are fuzzy and it's like,
Totally,
uh,
I totally get that. I think I'm trying to. One of my friends said something that was really good. He said that it was like neutral if the technology is like neutral. So like, for example, like he said, like WhatsApp, you're not going to really get yourself addicted. If you get yourself addicted to WhatsApp, it's like that you have a serious like something really
yeah,
bad going on. But
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's really useful. And the same, like
yeah.
I reached out to you on Instagram. I don't have Instagram on my phone because I can't. I don't have the self control to not
Yes,
scroll through stuff.
I've taken it off many a time. Right now, I don't have TikTok on my phone.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. But the Instagram is so amazing because I would never would have been able to message you and I never like you know what I mean? Like
Oh yeah,
I
they're
think
all
it's
great. They're
so
all
yeah,
great. I love them all. That's the problem. I love them all. I love the stuff that we've created. It's ridiculous. It's so fun.
Mm,
I could just lay in a bed and just swipe TikTok all day long and think it's the funniest thing in the world.
mm,
But there's things that I actually want to do, and there's reasons why I'm on this planet, and there's
mm,
gifts that I have to share
mm.
that if I don't force myself to shut off these distractions and force myself to have some self-discipline, I'm never going to do anything,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, and then I'm just the product of some corporation's plan to hook a bunch of people, you know.
Yeah.
So not only do you have to be healthy as a musician, you also have to like figure out ways to be able to separate yourself from all of these societal addictions. But at the same time, I feel that you also need to understand what's going on to
Mm,
be a musician that's in like I did sign up for TikTok because I was like, this is years ago, because I was like, everyone's on this thing.
mm,
What the heck? What is this thing?
mm.
And then, you know, you spend some time on it and you're like, this is stupid. Like there's nothing. And then it hits a point where all of a sudden, like the algorithm has learned whatever your eye movements and your finger move. It's frightening. But
It
then all of a
is, yeah.
sudden it becomes this immersive thing with you, um, where all of a sudden you're like, where am I? It's been an hour. I don't know where I've been. And so, but at the same time, you know, you're looking and you're like, oh, it'd be cool to make a little TikTok that would grab some people, you know, just like or some, you know, there's like there's trends and there's little things that are funny as like the culture of humans, these big cultural trends that we go through. And some of them are being done on TikTok. So I don't know. I don't know how to necessarily separate all that, but I'm definitely at a point right now where um, I need to shut off a lot of the distractions again
Mm.
and focused on a creative output. Um, you know, that's not maybe so influenced by this little thing.
It's tough. It's tough, and especially tough as you know, because you're trying to make things, and you want to put. I think the internet's so good at putting, you know, you put stuff out there and people listen to it, and it's so cool what can happen that way. I think it's just you're right. The addictive side of it is insane. I mean, I think
Oh yeah.
it's
Yeah.
frightening how
Yeah.
addictive it
And if you can
is.
get to the cycle of doing more art, production,
Mm,
videos, then at least the interactions that you're doing have to do with what you're doing. But if you get
completely.
into a pattern where you're kind of on your heels or you find yourself laying down in bed in the middle of the day on your phone or something, you're, you know, it's just as bad as being a passive TV watcher.
Mm,
Um, so you know, I'm at a point now where that record that we're talking about, the Inner Sound, it was 2020. So, you know, it's 2023. I haven't released another album. I've recorded a ton of music and all sorts of things, but really focusing in and making it into a piece of work than release. It's taken longer than I maybe thought I would, but whatever.
there might be a thing that we're all going through this kind of phone
It is. Yeah.
thing.
No, it definitely
Yeah,
is. I know that I'm in it with other people. I think
yeah.
that I guess I'm talking about it because I'm back to being an artist, being healthy, being whatever. You definitely you got to keep up with what's going on a little bit too. You know, you don't
Mm,
have to. You can be
mm.
totally out in left field, but yeah, understanding what TikTok is, understanding what Instagram, oh, there's that, you know, and how people are absorbing media. I mean, that's one
Yeah,
big
yeah.
thing that's changed. It's like people, when I started doing this, we'd make an album, have 10 songs, and I still sort of do that, but that's not necessarily the way that anyone successful is releasing music now. So even
Mm.
that I do that is sort of retro. People are releasing one song, and then 2 months later they release another song. 2 months later they make another song. But I don't know.
I think it can be important though. I think that's why it's so good to like I'm really like not I mean I find I don't know if addictive I the thing that I use I like felt find to be fantastic is YouTube for me to like learn. I really find it like I don't I tend just to use the search bar to stop myself from kind of like randomly clicking things, but I like will go on and I'll look up oh how to do this, how to do that, and I want to learn as much
It's
as
amazing.
possible. I find it so good because you have the audio and the visual. It's fantastic.
Yep.
Um, but I think that what's really important is I stopped I have a TikTok thing and I post on it, but I don't consume stuff on it because I find that I don't want to know what trends are. Like I think it's so important to make stuff from just like your own what you think is what you want to do. You're making your own trend, you know, not like following the trend. So you're always behind it when you're following it, I feel. So I think it's really good to have like
Yeah,
that
no, yeah.
complete.
No, you can't even keep up with trends. Those people you can tell are doing that, and it's cringy. People
Mm.
that are like doing, especially when you see someone doing something that's like 3 weeks too late or something, and you're like, oh God. But I don't even keep up with any of that. I honestly, I deleted it from my phone. I'm going, this is good. I'm glad we had this conversation. It's like
Yeah, yeah.
therapy.
No, it's like
Going
it's
from
just
my own.
this is it's good for me as well because it reinforces what I was already thinking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then, well, then you lay over the fact that we're all one.
Mm.
Try to digest that one. So,
No, I agree. I think this is all like I think it's all it's whatever is happening. This is a thing that we're all going through. I think it's a very addictive time. It seems like addiction seems to be a massive thing in everything. So
yeah, I
yeah,
think there was just a couple inventions that boosted our dopamine receptors to a point where now we're on a different page, and now we got to find things that are constantly fun or something, or we need to be really mindful about doing dopamine fasts where you just stop all stuff, completely sink back to ground zero, and then reemerge or whatever. And that's just something that might just need to happen as we get more complicated and as more stuff happens, just knowing ways to almost unplug or whatever, like because I'll get to the point where in order for me to sit down and make music, I have to plug in all of these things. Like if you saw my studio over there, there's like all these synthesizers and layers of blah blah blah. And so it's like I just want to play music. I'm all of a sudden I'm like plugging in 20 things, everything. There's so much electricity being used. Um, and it's cool, but I'm realizing like, okay, for music and my spirit, there's a lot of layers to get through. And so I recently just bought a little air organ that you just plug in and it's just air. It sounds almost like an accordion. And I've been finding myself just during the day when I want to play, just plugging in the air organ and just playing and feeling so good about that. And then it's like, yeah, when I want to make a real recording, I'll go in and I'll set up all the stuff, but I'll have practiced all this stuff on this little air organ and it will affect my playing. And just that, it keeps me more simple. It keeps my brain more one focused. My brain's not split into all these places. And so I have to do that throughout the day, is trying to pull my brain back into like one thing so that I can move. There's so many opportunities, options, things you can do with your day, ways to be distracted.
I heard a
Yeah.
great thing on the it was I like Grimes a lot. Like I think I like her music a lot, and she had a really good thing. She's talking about the kind of like AI and the future of technology, and she's basically said that she backed the idea of like a spiritual technology, which was that that like that people making technology, like you were saying earlier about the like what service, like music, making music as a service, that you make the technology as if you're connected with things, you're not going and you're like you recognize that um treating other things, other sentient things, other life well is a good thing. That to make technology from that point of view, not the not the people who are making this technology knowingly that it's addicting people, like they're knowingly doing that, but to
I know
make
what you mean.
yeah,
Making stuff that would be complementary to a natural life.
exactly, and not
Yeah,
antagonistic to it. I thought it was a really good idea or a really good way of like framing the problems around AI.
absolutely. Oh, technology is incredible.
Yeah,
But yeah, this capitalistic model that we have for our society that, makes you just trying to figure out how to mine everything out of everything. It's sad. It's sad. And yeah, that's definitely the problem, that they're not using technology in ways that are really beneficial to the human spirit, but they're beneficial to people getting more money and power and influence and control over people. And it's only getting worse with that aspect, as our money systems maybe aren't even, as they become completely digital or
yeah.
whatever. People are, yeah.
It's definitely a scary time to live in terms of that. But do you think I kind of feel like I'm at the point now where I'm ready to make the sort of divergent road, which I think is just I think a lot of people are doing, which is like I'm kind of happy to have, like technology that's good, that's kind of useful like this and serves my life. But I'm just gonna check out of the rest of stuff. Like I'm not gonna I don't want to have like the VR stuff and all that. I just want to like I'm gonna go back and like connect with the natural world and use technology that serves my life. And I feel like there's a I don't know how you feel about that, but like maybe there is a
It's
big
so
movement.
interesting, man. I'm such like a nature person,
Mm,
like my favorite band is the Beatles, and I think my favorite song is Mother Nature's Son. So that's how
mm,
much I like, it's just like for me, like, yeah, nature, streams, rivers. But but yeah, something about the VR goggles. I haven't really messed with any of those, but I'll say those Apple glasses that are coming out that are going to be like augmented reality. And no, I'm interested in it. I
mm.
would be lying to say that I wasn't. When I think about interacting with it, or it's making art for it, I
Yeah,
want to I want to make 3D psychedelic visuals that have headphones and people are listening to music. I want to make it like a sensory experience that's yes, like you're watching a television, but just even more so. But that's my own unique little thing I want to do with it as an art medium. I'm not necessarily wanting to like play video games or have the
yeah.
thing on me all the time. And I would only want it as a little experience, like you're watching a movie or something. Then you put that thing down but I don't know. I think we're marching forward to something that's we don't even know what it is exactly. I think we're going to get to the point where people have glasses on that are giving auxiliary information about everything as you're walking around. It's going to be bizarre. Um, Even some of the
And yeah.
music gear that I'm looking at using right now is like tiny and portable and so powerful and so different than other things I've owned that even music making is going to be really different as well. I mean, it already is. People aren't in bands as much. It's all this like production things. And yeah, I'm not sure. That technology natural balance is a really difficult one to find a balance for. And you might be in a better place in Ireland than America to find that balance.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I feel like I feel like it's affecting everyone now. I think it's literally like gone beyond the point of country to country. I feel like, America, its influence everywhere is so big that, um, Ireland is like increasingly kind of, I don't know. It's just like, I think everyone has to deal with it. Everyone is going to have to
Yeah.
come to terms with how they want to deal with it. But like,
You
I
ever,
find it, yeah,
I do. Oh, sorry. What were you gonna say?
I
You're
just find
fine.
it very, I'm like, as a zoologist, and I care deeply about kind of like environment, looking after the environment, having like good, like ecosystems. And I find it very funny how on one level there's this massive concern about the environment, but yet on the other level there's never been a bigger disconnect between people and the environment. It's like kind of paradoxical. It seems like,
Oh, it's
people,
wild.
yeah, caring about the environment, but then at the same time not being engaged with it whatsoever, not spending time in nature. It's really weird.
Yeah. And not wanting to say that like what makes this phone is like terrible mining practices with
Mm,
slaves and really ripping, the things that we're switching to now to save the environment, like, lithium mining and those windmills and stuff. Like I watched a documentary on that. And, I mean, I'm all for trying to figure something out, but
yeah,
some of these things, it just seems like we're sort of setting up a different system of companies and money and sort of like systems of energy, but whether it really saves us or not, I'm not sure. Like I watched
yeah,
the documentary on those giant wind things, and we have them starting to come up everywhere. And I heard that they only last a certain amount of years, the amount of money that it takes to make those. I mean, it's just there's a lot of things. And then solar panels I read about recently. I didn't realize what goes into making solar panels. It's insane. It's like I think it's quartz and coal or something. It's two things that are like you're still mining something like really dirty and dangerous, and you're still um so that's not a sustainable, it seems, way
mm,
to be. And then I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's very like it's very difficult because it's very complex. It's not straightforward. Like the if we switch from coal and oil too fast, people in the third world will just die. So like, there's a lot of responsibility about like you have to be careful about if you're gonna we do need to go obviously away from fossil fuels, but then at the same time, you can't just switch like without
You can't do
make
anything overnight, man. You
yeah,
got to
yeah,
do a plan and have it be like 20 years or 30
yeah.
years. You really have to. I mean,
But it's so complicated. I feel like now with especially it's hyper focused in America. I find it really sad that like in America, well, as you were saying, it's only on the media, which I think is interesting. But like that idea of people not treating each other as people, they're treating each other as like war, like opposition. Like
oh,
oh,
it's
you're a
awful.
Trump supporter, you're a Biden supporter, or whatever, like that, and not like seeing the other person at all, just seeing like what
It's
party
awful.
you are.
It's awful. It's really it's one of the hardest things right now. I find myself live as I live in Boston, and
Mm,
that's incredibly liberal, incredibly, traditionally vote Democrat, and that's how I would consider myself. I grew up in Massachusetts. I would consider myself pretty liberal, but I find myself increasingly in Massachusetts, um, sort of like highlighting views that are maybe not even exactly how I would think for myself, just to show people around me that there's other people that just think
mm,
different. There's like there's you get into this like group think, and
mm,
it's really hard to see like, hey, there's a couple states away. These people have different beliefs. They think different things. They have different economic situations. They have different religious, whatever. They're still really good people.
mm,
It's hard to, and I've seen that through touring music. And you play in Kansas, you play in Mississippi, you play in Idaho. There's great people everywhere.
yeah,
And even some of the people that don't have the same politics as you, they're great people. They're great
mm,
people. They just because someone has one thing, that doesn't mean, oh, then they're racist, then they're this, then there's like, we sort of developed this checklist, it seemed like in maybe 2019 or 20, that it was like, if you qualify for any of these, you are all of these things,
mm,
and it's terrible. And it's hard. So it's hard to find a middle ground, and to not be, enemy number, whatever. Yeah, it's interesting. America's in a strange space right now. But I think it's always like that. I think it's always doing something kind of weird. America's always pushing for some kind of equality or whatever. I still totally love it, but it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I do get mad at what the media does in terms of the polarization of people, and always seemingly just pushing these like candidates that are very corporate based. And anytime we try to get candidates that we'd want, they just snuff them. And what they did to Bernie Sanders was so sad. And that's just an example. They'll do it every single time. And so, yeah, and they give Trump tons of airtime because he gets tons of people watching TV, and he gets all these people fired up and
yeah,
engaged. He's
yeah,
like the perfect bad guy for
mm,
any network. I mean, he's an actor, and he's the perfect bad guy. And then for some people, he's the perfect good guy,
mm.
and and the fact that people can't just see that that's like happening, and they have to take one side or the other. It's like,
I actually watched. I forced myself. I would be same. I would consider myself always being still do like consider myself left wing. If I was in America, I consider myself a Democrat. Um, uh, and I just yesterday I just went on because I just thought like screw this. Like I'm not gonna like continue this stupid game of just like being on one side of the aisle or whatever. And I just went on and
yeah,
I watched like I think Tucker Carlson interviewed Donald Trump, and I watched it and it was like he said ridiculous shit and whatever, but like I just watched it and I said like this isn't really like why do people get so mad like. Some of the stuff he's saying is completely ridiculous. Some of the stuff is not that ridiculous. Some of whatever. Like it's just like what a waste of time and energy to be that bothered by a person. I mean, like if you're, if you're doing, I feel like that's the whole point of if you're doing like yoga or meditation or something like that, it's like not to let people have that much power over your existence, like not to let people be that influential in your
That's the
everyday.
shame of the whole thing is that the people that are most affected by Donald Trump are the people that hate him the most and they
Yeah,
think
yeah.
about him all the time and they're constantly you'll get into conversations with people. It's so sad and you'll be talking about something and they'll bring Trump into it. I mean, we are right now, but they'll bring it up as some way to be angry or be upset about whatever and it's hard because there's times where I just don't even want to have a conversation that involves anything to do with that. Well, mostly I don't ever want to.
Mm.
So you get trapped into a conversation where you're like, okay, what are we doing right now? Are we just bad mouthing people in the Midwest? Are we, saying that somehow Joe Biden and the Democrats are helping us somehow? It's like, it's just, it's addictive because they put it on the news all the time. It's like
Mm.
this ultimate football game that's being played all the time and it's seemingly a lot of the same characters across the aisle and there's a lot of money involved and yeah. I don't know, man. I'm going through a phase right now where I'm trying desperately to just hone back into my yogic and music bubble
Mm.
and not let the outside influences affect me because they're so ridiculous. And
Mhm.
going to that yoga ashram for a few months and basically shutting off my phone, not following the news, not following up on anything for a while. And then like I don't think I posted or did anything on my social media for 3 or 4 months. Um just doing that made me realize that the world is the exact same, whether I'm paying attention to these day by day stories that are mostly just propaganda being
Mm.
used to make me feel a certain way or not. When I just cut off and don't even pay attention to any of that, life is sweeter. There's more
Mm.
space for things you like, there's more time. None of those things are affecting me. They're affecting people around you that think somehow it's affecting. I don't know. I'm in Massachusetts and I'll hear people talking about the borders. And I'm like, dude, no one is in Mass. It's like, I mean, like, I get it. It's like if I lived in Arizona or New Mexico or something, I maybe have something to say, but people just need to be like grateful for where they are and the local things and not think that we're all like in these sides of this or that or this or that. Really, we're all in this together.
Mm.
And yeah, to be able to bear insult or injury from someone or someone giving you shit and you're cool with it, whatever. That's where you want to be. You don't want to be affected by someone. You don't want to give your power to someone. Like people don't like Donald Trump, but then they're all giving their power to him because
Mm.
he's able to, with one look into the camera, have people be like, "Ah!" um, so so you don't want anyone to have your power.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. So right now I do want to hide under the headphones and just go into my little music world and see if I can create another area that me and some other people can hide out in and
Mm. Yeah, to come full circle, your snowboard strut music video is the perfect hideaway. That's like when I watch that,
yeah,
it's just this like sweet little place where, like you're riding a
yeah,
dog and you don't have to worry about, I don't have to think about
yep,
the fact that this insanity that's going on outside. It just you tune into that. Um,
yeah. I want to try to do that all the time because I feel like you can do that with life. I
mm,
mean, like I said, that little world is in my backyard. My dog is upstairs. I definitely, enjoy puffing a little pipe and going and walking around and playing out there with the animals and stuff like that. So it's like that is the world too. Um, and I do wish to create little more worlds that people can hang out in and whether they're real or not. That's why I think I'm interested a little bit in VR. Like
yeah.
if I
Mm.
had a good designer and a programmer and I'm like, okay, I want to build a space that's like, I can build all the
No, that's
dimensions and
totally. I think that's a good.
that
Is
could be
that?
cool.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good. It's like there's lots of stuff online. Like there's lots of meditation stuff on YouTube, and I can see how VR would be a really good extension of that if you're like uh for art and creating something great for people to like experience and bring them. I think it would brings them pleasure, and it's also therapeutic, you know, like um watching art like that and getting that sense of joy and happiness and relaxation is I think is a form of therapy. So like if you can incorporate that into a new digital experience, then that's fantastic, I think.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually starting a weekly meditation group online. I'm starting in the next couple of weeks. So I'll send you a message about
Please
that
do.
or maybe
I will be there.
cool. Yes, it's so my little record company that I've had for years, and I say little because it's not, not a real record company, but I put out my own records. It's called Mythological Records.
Cool.
And so this is called the Mythological Meditation Society.
Wow,
And
I love that.
I'll just do like a weekly sit for 20 minutes, but maybe involve some music,
Cool.
maybe once or twice a week, and just see if I can get a little group together. I'm part of an online meditation group that someone else leads, and I enjoy it very much. I get a lot out of it. People chat with each other, makes little friends. So I'm hoping to kind of create that space and just the spot. And then, maybe from that, I'll start doing some things at night. But right now, I've been working on a website, and I'm starting to do live streaming with things with people is very important to me right now. So like
Oh,
connect with
please
people.
send that on to me because I will join it and I'll
Oh,
also share it as well because that sounds
nice.
fantastic.
Awesome.
Um, I think that's the power, that is the power of technology. I think people have to use it like that. That's so good because like yeah, you know, if people are in their house or they're like struggling with something or whatever, and then there's like this resource where they can go on and they can just have like this available to them. It helps so much, you know. That's like such a great thing. Okay, my have one more question. I have one more my and this is the most important question of
Okay. Oh,
all.
geez.
Okay,
Okay.
as a zoologist, right? I ha and are do you think like so in your music video there's like these like you kind of like little gnomes and stuff. And I've had experiences on like mushrooms and things where there's like little different entities and everything.
I like how this is the most important question.
What do you think? What is your thoughts about like there's loads of traditions around about fairies and all these kind of things? And do you ever get the sense, you know, you have leprechauns as well. Um, when you're going around the forest or anything like that, do you ever feel like there are little other entities, other things knocking about?
Um, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not going to put a word on it or a name
Okay.
on it. I just assume that rich forests are filled with little something or others. I'm sure there's other dimensions
Yeah.
of expressions, energy, creation. There's got to be. And I love the tradition in Ireland of seeing these things and like the banshees, all sorts of things, right?
Mm,
There's like um yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, for whatever reason, gnomes have always come up in my life, just
yeah.
around or involved in some way. So I just sort of treat it as like what is this vibration? Whether it is a real little guy walking around
Mm,
or if it's people having these little statues everywhere and just thinking about this gnome and thinking about that character, he's just as real. So it's like for whatever it is, just knowing that there's these like little wise guys with beards and like magical creatures, whether they exist for real or not, they are existing because it's somehow in your brain that you do have
mm.
this like little magical world of I don't know, how do you feel about fairies and that sort of thing out in Ireland?
Um, well, I have an obsession with Bigfoot as well. Like I don't know why. I just really there's a weird, bizarre obsession
Dude,
with
where
it.
I was in Cave Junction, Oregon, that's
Yeah,
Sasquatch country, and it's
yeah,
all Sasquatch stuff out there. Sightings
yeah.
all the time. Yeah.
Have you ever had any experiences or sightings
When
or
I
anything?
was younger, I feel like I saw a UFO
Okay.
pretty hardcore. I've had two of those types of things. And then no, I've had powerful like psychedelic experiences where I
Mm.
recognize that yeah, things are not as they seem for sure. But
A while ago, I talked to a professor. His name's Dr. Jeff Meldrum. I talked to him on Zoom, and he's like a Sasquatch researcher. it's really interesting. I mean, I'm not kind of like, I'm really not invested in it either. I'm not really like, I'm kind of the person that has to have to experience something myself before I'd even
Yeah,
begin to say. But I like researching it. I find it very fascinating. But the gnome,
yeah.
the kind of like fairy thing is really interesting in Ireland because there's lots of traditions about it, and like there's fairy forts and play in Ireland there would have been places where you wouldn't have gone near because there would have been like little people living in them, or and you would have to protect them. And there's loads of stories about it as well. Um, and then
Oh,
I
I want to go on a tour, man. I want to find the fairies. Like I feel like they've been scared out of America in a lot of places. We're brutal over here.
yeah, yeah,
But
it's pretty. I don't know. I got again, like I got the kind of feeling there's like that I don't know if you know Pink Floyd song. It's like a Sid Barrett song. It's called The Gnome. I think it's like it's really
do
like
I know it? I know
yeah.
every single word and I know how to play
Okay.
it. Yeah,
So it's like that. I don't know that that strikes the energy to me. There's something whatever that energy is.
Yeah, you feel it in that song, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
in
yeah,
the song. So
yeah,
that's what I mean about gnomes. It's like even if they're not physical little dudes walking around, or if
yeah,
they're on some other dimension
yeah.
that some people only access when, who knows, maybe some
Mm.
Irish guy gets it when he's drank too much moonshine and all of a sudden he's out, he's seeing these, he's seeing, but even if they're not physical, the fact that you feel the vibration. You feel the
Yeah, yeah.
vibration in the song The Gnome by Pink Floyd, just him
Mm.
talking about it. And whatever that is, it's a subtle thing, but you feel it. And you feel it the same with the dude, I love The Gnome by Pink Floyd. That's one of my favorite records ever.
It's yeah, it's great.
Vipers at the Gates of Dawn. I'm not a huge Pink Floyd fan after Sid Barrett, but I
Oh,
love
really?
Sid
Yeah.
Barrett.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
love Sid.
It's just so it's so like he's such a unique songwriter. Like it's just like so yeah, it's just like there's the he doesn't write it's not like a song. He's not like sitting down and writing a song. It's completely like this thing that is not doesn't have a sort of form or anything. It's amazing.
So
Um
good.
but yeah, I think I mean, I remember watching that. There's like an episode of South Park. It's called Imagination Land. It's like a three-part thing. And they talk about that and they're like how, these things that we make in our imagination, they can be almost more real than real things. And they can have more power than things that are, actually real. Like, like people kill each other over things that aren't even potentially real, but they're real enough to make people kill each other. So, um, yeah,
Yeah,
that
think
is
of
the
Santa
power.
Claus, man.
Yeah.
Like I have a visceral feeling for Santa Claus because
Mm,
of not just being a little kid and like, even once I knew like Santa Claus isn't real,
mm.
I still keep up the vibe or whatever that
Mm,
is. It's
mm.
not and there's still a vibration to that. There's something to Santa Claus, even though, you know, Santa Claus obviously isn't showing up in your chimney. But yeah, there's things that carry power even though they're not really in existence. And maybe that's what's up with gnomes and fairies. Although in Ireland, you see fairies existing, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
Like for real, like the actual physical. I don't know.
there's a guy here that I really want. I tried to get an interview with him before, and I'm gonna try again. I might do, but he's like, he knows like all the fairy stories, and he just fully thinks they're there. Like he's not even. I don't think he's any two ways about it. And they're
Oh,
gonna build him.
I wish I could be that good. My friend Yasos, that guy I was talking about, he brought
Yeah.
me to this hiking place on the West Coast and he started showing me where all the Davies are and the different fairies. And like he was showing me like this is the this and this is that. Like he not only like had seen all these creatures, he knew about the lay of all of it. And I'm so much more like rationally minded in terms of
Yeah.
that stuff. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
like I accept internally that that's real. And like
Mm,
him telling me the story, I'm like, awesome. I'm
mm.
sure that's real. That's awesome. But for me to truly accept it, I just would need I don't have that internal
Yeah.
thing
Yeah. Same.
necessarily.
I'm the same. I'm kind of like, I need the whether it's my own experience of it or I need something like I can't just. I think because not that I trust people, but I just think people are also capable of being full of shit as well. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
need the
yeah.
kind of like I need my own experience of it to really be like, oh yeah, if I know it's real, I think I will say it. But yeah, I'm kind of like I don't know. I'm maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But the the guy in Ireland is really interesting, and if anyone I believe, like he doesn't really have a lot to gain from being that certain about it. Like he's he's not like rolling in the books because he's saying it. He's just like you can kind of feel when you feel like this person's
Yeah.
pretty legit, that they're not like full of shit.
Send me
So
that guy's stuff. I want to
yeah,
check
yeah.
it out.
Okay, yeah, well, and he has it's really cool. But I want to talk to him and do an interview with him because he like stopped a motorway. He like protested a motorway being built over this ferry fort because he was so adamant that
I've
like
heard of that. I've heard of that
yeah.
guy. I
Um
love that the most important question of this interview had to do with gnomes and fairies and whether I believe them.
well, I kind of I it's a big thing for me constantly as someone who studies zoology. Like I think my fellow
Wow, that's interesting. Is there or
yeah,
isn't there little things like
I
that?
find it really interesting, and especially that's why I find the thing of like the thing of the whole myth of like Bigfoot and everything in America I find so fascinating because it's like this semi-real creature. Is it real? Is it not real? What is it? Like what is going on? And as
Yeah.
a zoologist, I find that fascinating because throughout history there have been people like when Westerners first went to Africa, they looked for the gorilla and they thought that these people were telling them, oh, this is like huge gorilla with the monkey thing with a silver back, and they were all like, oh, don't be ridiculous, that's such a lot of bullshit. And then they found the gorilla and they were like, oh crap. So like I just and Native Americans have always said that there was like Sasquatch. It's not like a myth. It's like they just say it.
Yeah,
It's so interesting, and I don't know. Again, I don't know if it's real or not, but whatever it is, it's so interesting. Um,
absolutely.
and like, is it people going in the woods? Are they seeing something and then they're all seeing the same thing, or is it a real creature, or is it something like semi-real, or like, you know, it's fascinating.
Yeah, when you get out to Oregon, there's parts of the towns where there's like big Sasquatch statues all over the place. People have say that they've seen it. There's like all sorts of books. I mean, it's definitely something that a lot of people have had some connection with. A lot of
Yeah, and
people. So
and there's people who are like who have said that they've seen it and they said it's like changed their whole life. So that they're
yeah,
really like they didn't know what to believe anymore because of the experience because
yeah.
and I find it I find it like there's something, you know, not everyone is crazy. There may be some people who are like, they might be crazy, but like too many of these people are not, they're not nuts. Like, you know what I mean? They're not
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
they kind of have like it's such a weird thing for them to do. And they're not like famous, they're not like on, they're not like making millions of it. They're just like literally said, like, they had this experience. And it's the same thing with UFOs as well. That's why it's so interesting because like everyday people who just have this experience and they're just like, what the fuck happened? Like,
No, absolutely. I mean, I think there's surprises in the earth that we have no idea that are still going to be coming out.
yeah,
Just
it's
things that
exciting.
they've been hiding. Yeah, it is for sure. Yeah. I mean, who
But
knows if these
yeah,
aliens have been here for a long time already?
yeah.
We're just starting to see them or just, things are starting to show up. Who knows?
But do you think that there's a like I've noticed this especially through meditation and yoga that you kind of enter a place where you're not. I mean, I still have my rational brain. I'm not like I didn't throw it out the window or anything, but like that you can kind of get in touch with the sense of the things like maybe it's not always you can't always rationalize it, and there's a kind of like a sphere behind that where it's like you don't know, you really just don't actually, you can't say for certain whether something is real or not real or whatever it is. And I think that may help, maybe a good thing for a lot of people if they realize that it doesn't always have to, just because we don't understand it now with their rationale doesn't mean that it's, we can't always rely on that tool that we have to tell us like the truth of things.
Yeah. 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 Um, hmm. It's interesting, man. It's like yeah, I mean, I don't I went in a couple different places in my mind on that. But yeah, it's just all we have is the present moment, and it's reborn every moment, I feel like. And what attachments we want to put onto our lives or opinions or judgments or feelings or whatever, but ultimately, like, my belief is we don't necessarily know what any of this is at all.
Mm, mm,
And connecting occasionally to that, and just maybe being grateful for being alive, or thanking some sort of maybe higher energy, vibes, God, whatever, for just guiding you, because you truly don't know what you're doing. Like, I try to be of service, try to be helpful, try to make choices in my life that make me happier and better, so that people around me, so I can help people around me and things like that. Um, but really, all we have is just like a moment to moment thing. And the more we can connect and be grateful for that moment, like this, like these
mm,
moments, um, I think we loosen up a lot of our ideas of what is right, is wrong, what is and it's not like you lose a rational mind, but you just sort of open up to the moment and all the possibilities of that moment. And when you can do that with things like music, it's beautiful. I still can be blown away by one note, just just hitting a synthesizer, and just the way that it comes out of silence and the way that it exits out of. Um, so just being present and just taking it all in, and yeah, meditation. It it's essential. I need to be doing it more and more, but it really makes you not only appreciate life so much, it also just you start to see where all the, I don't know, the additions from just baseline reality of just the presence and just being. You start to see where the things are pulling you out of that. And the more and more you go within and find that peace, like inside yourself, like you less and less will get pulled in directions that aren't good,
mm.
and favorable. I feel like that happens, just because you have more of like a base inside you. And yeah, I don't know. I'm not necessarily answering your question, but
No,
it's
it's a
just
good
kind of,
response. I just find it
yeah,
I find it interesting that, like, even for example, like, you know, it's not it's very difficult for our brains to make sense of the fact that you made a song that I heard on a music video from someone else's channel on YouTube, that then, like that interconnection is so hard to figure out mentally. Like, you
yeah,
couldn't, but yet it
yeah,
still happened. And I think that's like a testament to that there's something else going on outside of our understanding, which is kind of what I think what you said about, like, that idea of not really having a clue what's going on, which I think is really important. I think it's highly lacking a lot of the time. Just like that humility to be like, I haven't a clue what's going on.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
it's a good practice to be in, because if you submit, as long as you're taking care of yourself and you're trying to be guided in good directions, like, yeah, you're guided for sure.
Mm,
The more you can kind of just reset, because I mean, at least it's happened to me. Whenever I think that I'm mostly in control and that I have all these ideas that I need to push through, or, oh,
mm,
I have this and I need to do this, I need to do this. Oh, I have this idea. Oh, don't worry, I'll do. Anytime I try to do that, it always blows up, or
mm,
something gets like squeezed out to the other direction, and then all of a sudden it's like it never works the way that I
mm,
want it to.
mm,
Anytime that I'm trying to push something that is my own fire, or something that's like has anything to do with my own ego, it never goes well. It always something fucked up happens. So um yeah, I don't know, just being open and just recognizing that you don't necessarily know what you're doing, and that it's not like this ego you have to constantly defend. You don't have to constantly, like, people will identify with their car, they'll identify with what phone they have, they'll identify with the clothes, all these things that aren't them. And it starts to become their perception of them. So the more you can just reset to your raw, naked internal soul that is disconnected from all of this societal things that have just been built up by people, and there's beautiful things that have been built up, and there's been things that have been built up that are silly, that it's just like, why would you do that?
Silly is
um
the best word.
there's so much
Silly,
that's just like,
silly is definitely the best word. It's just like
yeah, it's
so.
like these things that we get into that it's like, why is that the, you know so just resetting a lot as like the present moment, and it's just like, I'm a beam of light, I'm a energy, I am the grass, we're all this one thing. Just doing some kind of practice where you can bring it back home to this soft, quiet place in your heart that's just like creation, just then you can enjoy the external world more and all the other things. But I think that you have to constantly be coming back in and getting to that almost zero place of like presence and creation and just like the nothing.
That's really beautiful. I think that's really true as well. I mean, I feel like, um, yeah, when you're also kind of freer to create, I think as well. Just you're freer to like express, like, but I think it's a very important balance between n knowing what's you have to really look after yourself to get in that position. Like you can't be you have to like really look after your body, I think, because I think otherwise it's just like impossible to get yourself that state of like calm and
Oh, it is. It's
yeah.
very important. The body is super important because sorry to interrupt, but that's super
No, yeah.
important. Yeah, to get to that point where you're able to just sit, meditate, be calm, you do have to work on your diet, your breath, your thoughts. It's all connected. It's like
Mm,
you have to work on your repetitive thoughts that are not good. You have to work on there's a whole bunch of things you work on to get to a quiet, still place. And you can. Everyone can. It's like one of the things that we were given. I feel like we were given happiness in a calm, peaceful vehicle, but we just do all these things all the time that just disrupt that all the time.
mm.
It's like if you're yeah, it's like calm, peaceful water, and anytime you do something to just throw a little rock in there to ripple it all the time, we're doing it all the time. If I think of how many times a day I'm rippling my own calm mind, I'm doing it all day long. Um, I am. I'm constantly figuring out ways to just, I'm doing something on email. Oh, let me also watch something on TV while it's like three things going at once. Just all this, it disrupts your peace. Um, so when you're able to stay focused, one pointed, and find that peace, it's priceless. And yeah, your health, you definitely can't get there. Well, you can, but it's a lot more difficult if the body is pulling you. If the body is like, I need sugar, I need alcohol, I need this, I need that. The body is the first thing you need to get control over so that you're able to transcend it or feel so supported by the body that you feel safe to not be so identified with the body. Um, and that's tricky. It takes a little while, and you have to want to do that. And it's something it's weird in our society right now. It's almost like a taboo to talk about it that much, because right now we're living in a society where it's like we're supposed to be accepting of everyone. And
Mm.
so, of course, you're accepting of people that have terrible diets or people that are addicted to really bad food or people that are just really unhealthy,
Yeah.
unhealthy. Um, but at the same time, it's like, how do we get people to be inspired to get better or
Yeah,
to
yeah.
feel healthier? And it's when you see, I've had the beauty of going to an ashram and seeing who's really looking healthy and meditating and is part of the practice. And then some of the people that maybe not as much. And I would say a lot of the people that are very healthy and take their health seriously, they are able to just be more at peace in a lot of ways, and in because their body isn't pulling at them with as much needs,
Mm.
or they can sit more comfortably because they've done a bunch of yoga, so their body's not sore, They're not holding extra weight. They're not, so yeah, I mean, getting your body to be a good vehicle, the best that you can is so important. Between that and the brain, then you get that peace. And it's just we can find temporary peace watching a good TV show, getting blazed, doing little things. You can find that temporary, it's more of a cessation of suffering and pain.
Yeah,
Or when you're
yeah,
eating bad stuff, for that brief moment that you're doing it, it feels good. You're like, okay, I'm doing the thing. Like we all have that. I have a pack of coconut macaroons upstairs that sometimes I will just crush a whole thing of them. And it feels great while you're doing it. And then kind of as soon as you're done, you're like, oh, why did I just do that? So just figuring out ways to like what's happening when that's happening, when you're crushing a whole box of macaroons in one sit, like what is happening? And
yeah.
one thing is that like I need nutrients. Like my body doesn't have the proper nutrients. It doesn't have all the vitamins. I haven't been eating enough salads. So my body is hungry. It needs something and it's calling out. And so if I'm stuffing macaroons and sugar, it will just keep needing more of that. But really it needs, probably the stuff, it needs vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin this. And then you realize that when you start eating super healthy, where the amount of nutrients in the food is really dense, you don't need to eat that much. You eat like, like a little, have a green juice, and man, your body feels lit up. You feel wonderful. You feel relaxed. Your whole body is calm because your body's not like, am I going to get the nutrients today to be or if you're running on way too much coffee every day and what that tension that you have and you're almost hot, you have like a heat to you, and so all your decisions and where you are in the day are coming from this place of like heat and inflammation. It's hard to be relaxed and keeping it chill when you're inflamed and you're hot. And so, yeah. And that's something that I learned in my late 20s, more or less like, oh, the body, the better I keep the body, the rest, all of this works a lot better. And as a
Mm,
result, I'll go through times where I don't have any money. Things are very simple, we'll say. And because I have my health, I'm fine.
mm.
Because I have my health, doesn't matter if I'm anywhere. It's like you feel okay. Your brain's fine, your body feels fine. Um, yeah. So I mean, health is wealth. It certainly is. It's
I
super,
totally
super.
agree. I totally agree.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a guy on YouTube who I watch quite a bit of. His name's, I don't know if he's, he's called the Certified Health Nut. His name's Troy Casey. He's
I know
actually,
that dude.
yeah, yeah. But I just remember, I remember seeing him and him just being like, holy shit, that is impressive. Like, I was
Yeah.
impressed by that. And I've
He
seen people,
transmits health
yeah, he
for
does,
sure.
yeah. And I've seen people at yoga and stuff, and you're like, they're literally beaming with life. And you're like, that is just like, there's something, it kind of cuts through all the bullshit about like what's people say about health. It's just like so immediately obvious that this person
Yeah, it's
is,
turned up.
yeah. And like, it honestly impresses me more than it's impressed me more than anything else. I think in life, like when you just see someone like that, because it's not like, oh yeah, they did this or they did this or whatever. They're just like, holy shit, you look like radiant.
Dude, being at
Uh,
that yoga ashram is so inspiring because you got all these people in their 70s and they're so healthy.
hmm,
And you're just people of all ages, but to seeing the older people that have been doing it their whole life and are still so vibrant is wonderful to see. But I know
yeah,
what you mean, man. When people have their, if we're all vibration, life is probably pretty vibrational. You get to the point where the vibrations that you're taking in are all like beautiful organic food and like really light. You're doing a lot of exercise, meditating. I mean, your vibration is really strong and
hmm,
powerful. Your aura is huge and of a good color. And it's like all that stuff is real. You can see a healthy person far away. Like, whoa,
hmm.
that dude's vibrating.
But even
Um,
if you switch the word like vibration with just energy, like
yep. Yeah.
when someone's walking down the street and they're like that, the energy
Yep.
that they emit on the street
Yep.
it almost changes the whole street. It's
No, I
nuts.
know it's like
Yeah,
electromagnetic radiation or
yeah,
something. It's yeah, your aura, their aura will push into other people's auras and almost change it.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
And
it's cool.
it's a totally different energy from that of like, I'm not trying to make a judgment about it, but someone who's like really struggling, really like, or like they're severely overweight or and they're like
Oh,
really,
absolutely.
their
Yeah.
body is just like
Yep.
it's so hard. And I feel like, yeah, I feel like it's such a tragedy that it's not to like shit upon people who are, doing bad or whatever or not healthy, but like it's a really not a good thing to make that seem like it's in
Okay.
something to be it's yeah like okay or like or normal or like to aspire to. I think because I just noticed that when you see someone like that, it just cuts through all of that kind of like stuff that people have going on their head. It's just so obvious that this person is like just what you want to be like. You don't, it's not like,
Absolutely.
there's no question in my mind when I see it. I'm like, how do I
Yep.
do that? Whatever they're doing, I want to do that because that's insane.
Yep. Yeah. I love that.
It's just
That's it.
so,
Another
yeah.
inspiring thing about technology is seeing people like that that will really inspire you.
Oh God,
Maybe
yeah.
make you do some changes in your life just from someone you hear talking on the internet or something, you know?
Yeah, it's another thing I was reading earlier, which I thought again, I find like people have now spun that as something like, oh, it's like an unrealistic standard. I'm like, I don't, I don't care. Like that, if that is possible
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
human realm of experience or whatever, that's where I want to get. Like that's, isn't that the bloody goal of the whole thing? Like,
Yeah.
that, like
Yep.
it shouldn't be screwed like twisted as like, oh, this is some unattainable thing. It's like, no, you have to work towards it, and like but that's the goal. I feel like that, like whatever.
Yes.
It's just so it's so insanely. And the other thing as well is it takes no. What's so incredible about it is it takes no language. It takes they don't even have the person doesn't have to say a single thing, and you just know. You just look at them and you go, "Holy crap, you are so bloody healthy and so like
Yep.
full of
Yep.
life."
Yep.
Um, it's quite incredible. It really is. Um, Amazing. I find it so cool.
Yes. Yeah, there's some inspiring humans and yeah, man, health is so important. It is like so important. So incredibly important. Um yeah, it's cool that it's cool that conversations with musicians are starting to talk about things like that as well. Because
This has been my I think vision for a long time because I never I'm always been making music, but I've never really fully. I'm committing more now to the idea of being involved in music because for a long period of time I thought like, oh God, if this is the reality of, especially in Ireland, Jesus, sometimes you're like, is this the reality of music? Like just going to these pubs and like venues and just like, it's just this, oh, it's just so awful.
yeah.
But now, like, and I think you're right. There's lots of people who are to have, the idea of associating health and music together. That they're not. It's not this kind of thing of where you have to be like, drug addict to be a musician. That you can really be like a healthy, super healthy person and create music. Is like that is so cool. That's such a cool thing. I think hopefully to be a part of or to like spread that idea because um yeah, it's gone way out of whack. Like if you look at pop music and stuff, the promotion of just like just
Oh, I
shit.
know,
Like
man. No, I
um
know. It's
so
pretty and that will always
hopefully
exist because
mm,
there is a romanticism and like a sexiness of like, the bleak ass people that are all like sickly and just writing these tortured songs. Like there's something about humans that they want to watch someone torture themselves and
mm,
like sing songs or you just want to hear someone else's pain. Maybe
yeah,
you
yeah.
identify with it. But but that will always be available. There's always going to be
Yeah, yeah,
the unlimited resource of pain. So it'd be nice to be, yeah, making a movement that's like healthy, but also is down to earth and cool, where it's
of
not like
course.
some, yeah, not some
You can still
super
express
animal health.
those.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
yeah. You can still
yeah,
express the human range of emotions and feelings and stuff, but I think it's more like the enabling of like when you look at people like I just think like one of my heroes is Jim Morrison, but he was a total train wreck of an alcoholic. But like
yep,
like the industry just said, okay, fine, we're gonna literally we're gonna just like you're gonna die, or like Kurt Cobain or whatever it is, you're just gonna die, and we're gonna take your product and then we're just gonna sell it on, and it's gonna be super successful. But actually, the person is like dead. It's like really backwards.
pretty brutal.
So if I can be a part of something that like
Kurt
as
Cobain was my favorite, and that's like Kurt Cobain was like a reason why I started having a band. You know, I
yeah,
was 14 when he killed himself, and he
mm,
was my favorite band at the time when he killed himself. So
yeah,
it's amazing that I've gotten to the point now where I'm playing like meditation synthesizer music and leading like yoga classes. Because where I came from with music was like, yeah, learning Nirvana songs and all the pain and the angst and the torment that went with that. Um,
they're brilliant songs, but it's like they're
yeah, they're
fantastic.
incredible.
Yeah, 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 they're amazing,
He also
amazing.
was fighting a system that was pretty bad. It still is. You know,
Mm,
he was kind of like trying in his own little way as a 20 something year old to push back against that system.
mm,
And ultimately he died and then was exploited because the system is really powerful.
yeah, yeah. No, it's awful, but yeah, I don't know. I hope I think that was my one like I think it's really important that that changes around music. Like it just has to because it's like or at least in some part. And as you said, I think there's hope. I think there definitely is because it has such an amazing power that yeah, I'd like it to just be seen as, you don't need the substances with it to
Yep.
just like it's amazing as it is. It doesn't need any enhancement. It's already incredible. So um yeah, hopefully that's some our service to the world.
Yeah, I think it's coming. It is coming. It's coming. The musicians that I know these days, I mean, granted, we're all a little older now, they seem more mindful and working at in terms of their health and working at the club that I run, even the younger kids, they're drinking less. They seem to have more of a knowledge about what's good and bad for the body. So I hope that it's coming. I think it will.
Okay, mate. I mean, that's
It'd be
fantastic.
nice to be in a world of music making where alcohol wasn't the dominant substance.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because it's like whatever I'm all for people's personal freedoms to do whatever they want, but
Yeah,
it's not a substance that lends itself to like really accessing. It kind of allows you to access a part, I think, of some sort of spiritual realm, but it's not really the one that I think is
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
most conducive to yeah, like
You know, every couple months I'll have a Guinness or two, and I love it. And I have so much fun, and the world seems brighter, and the sun's brighter, and you're like, whoa, and you feel so good. But if I were to do that every 2 days or every day, it would not
yeah,
feel like that.
yeah,
So
yeah,
with anything, it's just like using it as a little thing here and there for fun, and just but finding that balance, I think that's important.
yeah. I mean, I just can't. The problem with our in Ireland is that the culture is so. I mean, sure, it's same in America, but for
Oh yeah,
me, like, if I could, I can't even do that because if I do that, like,
of course.
I will be pints will be bought for me immediately. They'll be like, "Oh, you're drink,
I know,
people,
man. I know.
you're
I've been to
you're
Ireland. I know.
you're
You
oh you're
drinking again,
yeah
Finn?
you're
Yeah.
drinking again. Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
well, and
Nah, it's
then all
best
of
to
a
just
sudden
stop completely.
it's like 7 pints, um, and no, but like I look at play, I think it's just a thing. I think being Irish, I think like when I look at people in Europe in like France and like they're like completely different. They have like a glass of wine with like dinner,
Oh
and
yeah.
then
Oh,
that's
we get
it.
fucked up.
Yeah,
Us Irish. Yeah, we drink, man.
It's bizarre though. It's a really weird thing that's
Not
happened.
really bizarre. I mean, the Irish people were oppressed pretty hard.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
So
Yeah.
what comes from that drinking, and then it just becomes this long line of alcoholism. I mean, I'm trying, my generation now is the one to break the Irish alcoholism curse.
Mm.
It did a number on families.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm done with the it's so potent here. It's like insane. You know, it's like
One thing I'll stopping so many times because I've stopped alcohol many times in my life. Uh, each time it gets easier and like the alcohol has less and less of a pull to the
mm,
point where in my life, I do so much. I've turned my life over to like meditation and yoga and just a different lifestyle so much that now alcohol, if it does come up for some reason, is fun again because
mm,
it's in such small quantities and
mm,
it's usually some event that's really special and having this much of it, I'm laughing my ass off. And I know in 45 minutes, I'm going to be like, but then I stop and I just never, ever have more than one drink. And rarely do I even finish one drink. And I'll let that drink last 45 minutes or an hour. Purposely, my task will be to just take a tiny sip, wait 20 minutes, have another little sip so that my friends that are having three, four drinks, I'm the same pace with them. So it's like, and I'm able to do that now, but it took me 10, 15 years of incrementally stopping for 3 years, stopping for 2 years, stopping for what, and being like hard about it. To now, it doesn't have any pull on me at all, other
mm,
than occasionally I know when it's the right situation to be like, I'm gonna have a little sip. The people I'm
mm,
around right now feel really safe to be stupid around and silly. Um, but even at that, doing that little bit, the next day I feel weird and I feel kind of depressed and I can just feel my energy's off. And so
mm,
I just think back on the days when I would just drink any night, not even think about the next day, not even understand that my energy was being manipulated so badly. I mean, I think that's really what happens is people aren't even aware that their energy is being so manipulated because it's so common that
mm.
everyone is doing that you don't realize like how much of a number alcohol does on your system.
It's
But
so yeah, it's so strong. I think like I feel like also for me, I want to break the idea of Ireland being associated with alcohol because it really pisses me off.
yep.
Um,
Yep.
because it's not just this country is not just Guinness or whatever brand of thing is, and it's like we don't our Irish people don't help themselves either because we all play into it because it's kind of like fun, you know, it's like a nice social thing, I suppose, but like it's really shit because it's just like um again, I'm not trying to ban alcohol. I'm just saying that like it is not. I think we're so creative. We have so much to offer the world. Like if you think about the music and art um
Yes.
that's come out
Absolutely.
of Ireland.
The Irish writer, the thoughts that come out of him they're Irish, they're just unbelievable. And to be able to get away from that addiction to or dependence on alcohol
Mm,
uh, would be huge because the consciousness of the Irish person is ready to just, accept that they are not just people that drink in a culture of drinkers. It's like it doesn't have to be that at all anymore. Um,
yeah, and Ireland has that like amazing. Well, I feel like everyone here like they talk to people as if they already know them. Like they're just super open, like super ready to
yep.
talk, and I think that that is already there. But I think, yeah, it's just it's a shame that it's like, yeah, it's something that has to be addressed. But whatever, I don't know what the
I bet there's more people like you that are thinking the same way. I'm sure it
no,
will.
there definitely are. Definitely are. And I know some of my friends have completely stopped drinking as well. But
Yep.
but I think it's just it has its own pull, and I'm not saying it's not fun. It definitely is. It can be fun, and I think I do now feel like a lot of it is a substitute for that kind of what, when you're on a spiritual practice or you're like doing meditation or yoga, the kind of the things that you get, like that kind of connection, this sort of feeling of being at home or like connected and oneness. And that I think it's kind of like a inverted way of doing that. Like you just drink because you want to get that kind of feeling of, it does give you that. It gives you kind of a little like glowing, buzzing, kind of like
Yeah.
full, full connected feeling. Um, but it doesn't really last that long.
No, that's like
And
with
it kind
any
of
of
wrecks you.
that's why we try to do yoga and meditate, is because you hope that it can last and be called upon at any time.
Mm.
Because instances only last until they run out. And
It's the high on your own supply methodology.
exactly. Wim Hof.
Exactly. I just did that breathing thing today. Actually, it's really good.
Email from someone that is a bodybuilder that was training with Wim Hof for a few weeks somewhere. And he wrote to me and said that they were listening to my Inner Sound album
Oh wow.
in the sauna, and that Wim Hof wanted them to just repeat this one song over, or they just kept repeating this one song over and over, my song Spirit of Fire.
That's
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah, so it was cool to get an email. It was also funny because the song that they had on repeat was Spirit of Fire. And when I think of him, I think of like the Iceman. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That's true. Yeah, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that was cool. When I heard that happened, that was a nice little like, oh, I'm on the right path or whatever.
Absolutely. That's such a good, like, it's such a wonderful thing to have happen. It's amazing. It really is. I think that's the real thing about music that's amazing. Like obviously, people need to make a living or whatever, but like the real things that really matter are when someone says like it's like that, like little story. Someone goes, "Oh, this song of yours, I did this, like whatever it was with the song that you created." That's the special moments. I feel like that's stuff like that. Like
Very
um,
cool.
it keeps you coming back, keeps you wanting to create more and inspire people. But that's amazing. So he's like a professional bodybuilder or
Yeah, yeah. I'm assuming so. On Instagram, he has 4 million
oh wow, okay.
subscribers.
Yeah, okay.
So but yeah, yeah, that was a cool little thing. Yeah, it's very fun to get contacted by random people. You send music out into the world and you don't know what's going to happen. And so it's nice when some fun little things come back at you like that.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. Okay, I think we're gonna I'll stop the recording now because I think
And for
we've had
podcasts, it's six and a
this is
half,
a
3 hour, 2.5 hours long.
brilliant. That's perfect. I love that. That's fantastic.
And
Okay, I'm
numbered.
gonna stop recording.